Hello everyone and welcome to Wowhead Weekly number 184. I think most of you guys have probably been very busy entering Battle for the Zarlor. I know I have. I have gone through it with my guild, which is my stream guild, and we have done some decent progress. And we will talk more about them because with the new raid, there has been new cinematics, and at the same time, there's also been updates at the PTR. But before we go into that, let me introduce myself. I'm Annie, also known as Annie Fuchsia. I stream on Twitch full-time, and I also do this Wowhead Weekly show for you guys every week. We have a special guest today, but before he is introduced, I want to introduce the lovely Perculia, my co-host.
Hey everyone, I'm Perk. I run Wowhead, so I oversee all the news and guides and features we do on the site, and it's always really fun to do this segment because we can share what's been popular on Wowhead in the last week and then, answer some of your questions and just, connect with you a bit more. I'm really excited to announce that we have a guest this week. It is Lore Master Nobbel 87. Nobbel, does all amazing lore recaps of so many quest lines in the game, and we do a monthly collaboration with him on Wowhead where we, talk about important things like Dazar lore or the history of the Zandalar. And yeah, the last collaboration we did was explaining what the Battle of Dazar lore is with all the unique Alliance and Horde perspectives. So without further ado, here is Nobbel.
I don't even have to say anything anymore. I was just gonna be like, hi, I'm Nobbel, and that's it, but you got like this master of lore thing going on. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
hi,
Lore Master Nobbel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can you read the title above my bald head? It's working.
We also have a giveaway as usual, and we are giving away Hogris the Pig, and the keyword to enter in Twitch chat is oink, O-I-N-K. And I also want to say happy birthday to Sass, because Sass always does our giveaways, and his birthday was yesterday, so
no
happy birthday, Sass.
Happy birthday, Sass! Happy birthday! I would sing to you, but you don't want to hear my singing, so I'll not do that. But I'm singing in spirit. I'm singing in spirit. Happy birthday! I mean, you're welcome to sing if you want to, Nobbel.
Happy birthday to you. Sorry,
He did it!
We suddenly lost like 400 viewers. You're welcome.
No, I think we gained 400 viewers. That was amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
That
also
was
thanks
amazing.
everyone. I know we started a little later than usual, and there's a lot going on with the Mythic race, but we have, really awesome viewers, so thank you for tuning into our show.
Mm-hmm. And if you're watching from the Wowhead front page, in case you're not aware, this is streamed live on Twitch. And if you want to take part in the chat and have us, possibly read your comments, or maybe you want to ask any questions, you're very welcome to do so.
Yeah.
Yes, Sass was very happy. Sass is... Oh, did you see what he said? He says, let me get a divorce real quick. Nobbel, you're available, right?
Of course.
This escalated quickly.
Yeah. Unexpected stream development.
And like I said in my
I'm not going to decline any birthday wishes now here. Like, look, if somebody asks me for their birthday, I'll step up, no problema.
Oh, yeah. Let's have some Kappa prides in the chat. I think that's very appropriate. And like I said in my tweet, I wrote, you can be sure to turn into an expert in WoW lore with Nobbel in the house. And this is true. If you're here listening, he's like, what?
What am I going to do? Yeah, sure.
You're just going to be you, and everyone will turn into experts. That's what's going on.
All right, well, to be fair, when it comes to data mining, you guys are way more up to speed than I am. I did a little bit of homework before the show, so I got a little bit spoiled, but normally you guys are the ones where I learn from.
Aw, look at that. That connection. Nobbel, heart, Wowhead.
Yep. We were discussing our next month's collaboration, and it seems really exciting and ties into a lot of the data mining we're doing, so I can't. But yeah, if you're new to the show, we usually cover any PTR news or live news and any guides that are on Wowhead, and when we have guests, they can just chime in if they have feelings on the topics, and we thought Nobbel was a really good choice for this week because we have all the Dazar lore lore. That sounds funny. Since the last show in the cinematics. Plus, we have player choice and some old god additions with the PTR. So, before we get into the PTR stuff, I thought we should talk a bit about the thing we're actually giving away, this pig, which is called Hagras.
Oink in the chat to enter the raffle. So there's a new mount in the Blizz store, and I think a lot of people, when they hear the Blizz store, it comes like, ooh, Blizz store. Oh no!
Did you see the likes, the dislikes on the video?
I did not, but I can imagine they're really bad. I do agree that timing seems a little bit, a little bit fast. We just recently had the Vol'jin familiar. It's called Vol'jin familiar. The cute.
Yeah.
I
think the problem with it was that this is for Chinese New Year.
Exactly. So there's a different reasoning for it.
Right.
You can go on.
Yeah. So I think that it's okay. And last year we had Shuzhen, who was for Year of the Dog, but it's weird when you have the shop mount in December, because to someone that doesn't know the whole cultural history, they just think, oh, a mount came for the start of 8.1. Now a mount came for the start of Season 2. Are we going to get a mount for every new patch or season now? So maybe the December one wasn't totally needed, but then financially people tend to spend more money in December and Q4. So do they really want to do a December mount? I'm not sure, but the optics do look a bit strange, even though it was kind of expected we were going to get, a Year of the Pig mount, just like Year of the Dog.
I'll show a quick picture of it too. You can continue speaking.
Yeah, over there they got it with the 6-month subscription, like we got it with the ship, right? So they had to not in from the store, but instead they subscribed for 6 months and they got it. Yeah.
Yeah, and when there's the new year in China, there's special deals on all Blizzard games. So this has been going on for a few months already. Like there's a special deal on getting Warcraft 3, and it's super interesting because you can't have blood on things. So the Meat Wagon mount has green tints, not red.
Oh, that's interesting.
And yeah, every few days they announce something new. So we everyone expected this was coming for a while, but yeah, now it's confirmed.
Yeah, if you look into it and understand the Chinese New Year and that they get a mount, and in the past when they get a promotional mount with having a subscription for a certain number of months, it's normal that mount would then end up on the store for the rest of us. But as Perk mentioned, the timing between the two mounts is, kind of like 1 month, it's not...
Yeah, we can't forget about the See You Later bundle.
The See You Later bundle too. Like, there's been a lot of store things going on right now, so the timing is not very good. But it's, I guess another option could have been to delay it, but that might be weird as well.
Or just not, maybe save Vol'jin Familiar for... I don't know, Ashara, some other
Or
time.
add it as a reward to the Lunar Festival.
I think that's a cool idea.
Yeah. Honestly, it would fit as well.
Yeah, I mean, it fits really... Every year that fits really well, and it gives people a new thing to then spend their tokens on.
But
could they, the holiday interesting.
Could they do that, though? Could they add it as an in-game reward if it's already a promotional reward somewhere else?
Well, yeah, we just don't tell them.
I mean, if it's a promotion in China, like, can we get it again?
I remember last year there was all this uproar where it was announced in China, but it wasn't on US yet, and everyone was freaking out that they were China had a mount that they wouldn't have, or they'd have to pay for 6 months to get this mount, and the price of a mount is going way up. So and now there's a different complaint this year.
So did the pirate ship over there just end up on the store then?
I don't know if they got a pirate ship. I mean, I assume yes. I think it just was on the store.
I think so, because that's what happened with the Tyrell's Charger, right? Or maybe that was in Taiwan.
Just buy it.
Yeah, it was added to the store. Because I remember some people in the West were trying to buy it on the Taiwanese store because they, weren't part of the promotion years ago, and they got the mount, but then it was fixed later on and removed from all the West.
Yeah, there was a weird glitch where you
could there was a glitch.
Buy it for that currency, but say you wanted to go to your US account, and then Blizzard changed that.
Okay.
Have you guys seen the teaser video for EU? Because the US one is pretty standard, like Pandaria vibes, but the EU promotional video shows the pig running into a slaughterhouse. And it's oh wow, this got dark.
I can't believe it. So describe it more for those who may not have seen it, Perk.
So there's a gnome riding, like a tiny gnome on a pig,
Mhm.
and it's riding through Drustvar, and then it comes across a farm, and it sees like piggies that are alive, and then the gnome looks horrified because you have the slaughterhouse with the dead pigs
Yeah.
hanging from the ceiling, and it just ends with the camera zooming in on the pig looking in terror.
Oh God, poor piggy. I
Yeah.
can't believe they made it so dark. And the American one was just in Pandaria, was it?
It had like Pandaria music vibes, and it just was sort of flying
Okay.
through the air in a very lush green area.
Mhm.
It was running, and then it took off and it was flying, so you saw the wings.
Okay.
While the European one, I don't even think it flew. It just was the pig running through Drustvar
Yeah.
and then coming across dead pigs.
Oh my God. Poor piggy. I wonder why there's such a difference between West and EU. That's funny.
Yeah, and it wasn't even all EU ones. I think France and Russia got the dark. France, Russia, and Spain got the dark one, but I think
Oh, so it was even mixed in EU?
got the US one. So I don't think different tastes of humor.
Oh wow. That's interesting. I
Yeah.
can sometimes hear myself.
Yeah, I can hear you as well, double.
I think that's from Perk. Is it Perk? I'm not on speakers, am I?
I don't think you are. Let me check. I thought I switched it back to headset after Brightpaw ate
The
ate
cable.
my mic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It says built-in output. I'm adjusting the things. I don't know if this changes anything or if I made it worse.
Testing. That's good, I think.
1, 2, 3.
I can't hear you. I can.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Okay.
Mhm.
Oh, that's cool. Yay, I changed it to default, which I guess is this mic.
Perfect. Yeah, that's good. That's good. It's
Cool.
working now, so we're happy.
Yep.
Um,
But yeah, so this was actually teased on the 815 PTR a few days ago. Even though it was on live servers, they added it to the PTR first. So it wasn't a total surprise,
The
which is a
mount?
good transition into the actual 815 PTR stuff.
yes, perfect.
So
the Q&A.
first thing we have is Hati is
Mm-hmm.
returning.
So
And
we've
they're
got some
quite
new
fun.
items related to
Yeah.
Hati, as you guys might remember,
did
especially
I
if
read
you're
it
a
right?
hunter. Mm-hmm.
Can he become a mount? Did I read that right?
Yeah, he can become a mount.
What?
That's actually amazing. Wait, let me get some.
Just for hunters or for all classes?
This is for hunters. So actually, right before the show, we actually were able to play through this, and we've covered the general plot through broadcast text before, but it's just good to confirm if you missed it. Basically, Hati's essence is split in areas of great sacrifice, so the Storm Peaks and Silithus, and you have to go retrieve the essence, and then Hati gets fused together, and then you can tame Hati and get all the colors.
That's
And there's
amazing.
some fun Easter eggs in it, like when you go to Ulduar, Flame Leviathan is there, but it's like very amped up because Flame Leviathan has gotten bigger since we last fought it, and you can actually press the Mimiron button and he yells at you. So that's kind of
Oh.
All right.
But yeah, so basically, Hati is a good boy and sacrificed himself in these 2 areas in Legion. So you need to get Hati's essence from these like very traumatic areas, and then Mimiron helps fuse Hati back together. And apparently there are items tied to after you get Hati, you can do all sorts of fun things with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, didn't they tweet out like what kind of customization would you like to see for Hati?
Yeah, Muffinist says, if you could dress up Hati with one accessory, what would you choose? And it seems like he did this on January 27th, and it looks like some of the items have made them in. Just reading them out quickly, the Volt Weave Fez, give the Fez to Hati so he gets a hat. The Jolt Jerky is you feed Hati a special treat, and Hati may viciously lick your face, dealing nature damage. There's a rubber ball you throw it.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Charged Sparkstone, which brings out the latent power in his lightning, visually enhancing his abilities. And the best one is the Iron Spine Protocol, enhance Hati's size and constitution, allowing mounting.
That's really, really cool.
That is really
Yeah.
cool. Lucky hunters. I wonder if the throw the ball for Hati means that Hati will go fetch it too. That's cute.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the item to see if there's anything interesting in it, but let's
When
see.
you turn on the internet, you become so bright. It looks so cool.
Oh, the bright screen, yeah.
Yeah, it's like when I open up the new Wowhead page, it's like white for a second, and then it's just like, and then it's back normal. But yeah, nothing interesting on Hati. Hati's rubber ball. Apparently, we know what the vendor is, but the vendor's there, but you can't buy any of the items yet.
Mm-hmm. But it'll be there
also,
for 815.
You'll also be able to change Hati's appearance into all the tints, because a lot of people didn't know this. I learned as I was researching Hati that each artifact, challenge, or piece of content, when your artifact had a new appearance, you got a new tint along with it. Hati changed as well. So you can unlock all those colors, and even a new color called Hati's Sacrifice, and that's like a light gray wolf. So that's pretty neat, I think.
Okay. Wait, so how many colors are there?
There are 6 total. There is the default skin. Then there's the Order Hall skin, which is a dark gray. Then there's the Balance of Power, which is a medium gray. PvP is brown, and then the hidden hidden skin in Mage Tower is bright blue, and then Hati's Sacrifice is a very light gray.
Okay.
So your mount also becomes different colors depending on those skins? Is that what I get out of this?
Hati, if he's a mount, changes color based on his skin, yeah.
It must do. That's amazing.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And is the difference purely a color, or is it slightly different as well in model? Like anything else
no,
different
it's
with
just
him?
the color.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just the color.
Because I didn't really play Hunter, so I don't know how much Hati changed between the different weapon skins.
Yeah, like he has the same glowy paws and teeth. It's just background color of him. So, some skins make the lightning show up better than others, like the Legion Hall campaign one makes it look super cool.
Okay.
While the default skin is fainter, but yeah, it's just a color change, but it's still really cool.
Yeah, it is still really cool.
I can't wait to see the
myself
Fez.
again.
Yep.
And I heard Nobbel
It's
too.
not me, is it?
No, I think it's Perk. But I'm not sure what it is. Maybe if you turn us down a little bit?
Sure.
Maybe.
Let's see.
That's so weird. It was gone and then suddenly came back.
Better, I moved it 50% down.
Okay. Yeah. Seems good.
Okay. All right.
Seems good. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, we got some more 815 PTR stuff. We actually got quite a few things in there going on.
Yeah, we didn't do the show last week because you were doing the viewer runs, and then the PTR built it like right after we were meant to do the show. So
new raid, we need a lot of raiding days to get through the raid, and we almost managed to get heroic Jaina, but we didn't.
Yeah, you just casually do it with viewers, and while my guild is like struggling to get it done. Oh, we just nearly cleared the heroic. Easy. It's just how we do it.
Well, how many days do you guys raid?
3.
Okay.
Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday. Yeah.
We did Wednesday. We did normal mode Wednesday. It took us like 9 hours for the whole raid. Wow. And then we did heroic Thursday, Friday, and Tuesday. So we did 3 days of heroic, but we did not get Jaina though. Feels bad. We'll get her this week, right? Yes, we'll get it. Yeah. We'll get it this week. I like your emote, Nobgasm.
It's good, eh?
Yeah, it's cute.
I mean, I'm not making you guys look like anything. Like, my guildies are in the chat right now. I'm not saying anything. I'm just comparing how people are progressing, all right? Some do it with just people that they pick up on stream, and others struggle a little bit harder.
Well, maybe you should do the raids on stream. There you go.
Yeah, like an endless supply of people subbing in.
Yeah. Do it on stream. Done. We can raid together. Maybe I can join you guys.
Yeah. Like after my you guys are gonna.
Yeah, we should raid together.
You can carry us. Yeah, man.
Well, you guys can carry me. I'll bring the motivation, and then you guys carry me. Let's do that. It's a date, boys.
Our raid leader is like, yes, please take us with you.
Let's do it. But yeah, moving on to the next topic. Before the storm.
Yeah, this is something that Nobbel probably finds exciting.
I think it would be perfect if perfect
Yeah.
if Perk introduces the topic, and then I'm sure Nobbel will also want to have to say a few things about it.
Yeah. So in the novel Before the Storm, which set up the events of the Battle for Azeroth pre-patch, there was mainly about the Alliance and Horde clashing, with Anduin trying to arrange this meetup with some of the Forsaken, and then of course going south with Sylvanas. But there was an interesting subplot with a goblin and gnome couple that were married at one point, and they are forced to work to discover things with Azerite. And at the end, there's a dramatic explosion, and we're not sure if they survived. And then we see them as shadowy figures in 8.1 during a faction assault, and we see them in game now in 8.15, where we meet up with the gnome Safi, and we also meet up with Feathers, who was the mechanical parrot, an anniversary present, who was damaged heavily in the explosion. And then in this quest line, we put Feathers back to sorts, and we get Feathers as a present from Safi, and then she drives off into the sunset with her goblin husband. And it's really cool to see them in game and to see that subplot continue to develop, especially with what's going on with Megatork. Played a big role in the raid, but now he's encased in ice, and the cat is also doing things. So it's cool seeing that other, gnome characters are becoming more prominent in the future, and maybe this will also tie in with mechagnomes or maybe even tinkers. Who knows? And yeah, I just like little quests like this that help build character and keep all the threads moving forward. Because in past WoW expansions, I would sometimes feel like, oh, this character got their moment in the spotlight, and now we can't do anything with them again. Blizzard's going to move on to a different story, and it's nice to see everyone's stories developing as the patches go on.
Yeah, I love that. And having that story outside of the game, and then connecting it to in the game, and seeing the fate of the two as well. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, what did you mean with 8.1 shadowy figures, by the way? Do you mean the world quest where you pick up the item? That mentioned
yeah. The unidentified gnome and an unidentified goblin, and the Where Eagles Prey world quest.
Gotcha.
And then because you pick up Grizek's Rocket Hop, which is the name of the goblin, and the Raucous flavor description also talks how it's a mix of goblin and gnomish engineering, which refers to them working together.
Cool.
So
the pet that I was showing on the screen for a second, I'll show it again. It's right here. Is the feathers that Perk was talking about that you help fix in this quest line, and it's the reward that you get at the end of it.
Yeah, and this is also interesting because it was shown at a BlizzCon slide for what's coming in 8.2, along with the picture of a mechanical parrot mount. So we all thought this was coming in 8.2, but the pet, I guess, is coming in 8.15. And to get a little technical with data for a second, when we were adding these quests to the database, we noticed that they were actually added in patch 8.1 PTR, like back in October, with placeholder boring names, and almost like Blizzard wanted to hide it, and they just updated all the names this build to make them reflect the quest line. So it's like they were trying to hide this on us, so we couldn't find it earlier. They were keeping it secret.
So do you think that these two are gonna come with us to Mechagon then and upgrade their pet into a mount?
Yeah, I think they're gonna play a bigger role moving forward, and that's why Blizzard wanted the quest to be hidden before the BlizzCon presentation.
This
very nice.
Is amazing. Like, look at this mount. So pretty, so majestic. I need it.
And I also think that they're going to help us maybe use Azerite in less destructive ways, because they were in the book trying to, like, they didn't like how they had to use Azerite for harmful reasons, and they were trying to come up with their own plans and interesting inventions. And she has an engagement ring that has a drop of pure Azerite in it, and she seems pretty normal. She hasn't done anything awful like wanting to take over the world, so maybe they are using Azerite for the right reasons, and actually like 2 people that don't want to use Azerite just to blow things up and, you know, cause trouble.
Yeah.
It's cute how they got back together though, like goblin and gnome couples.
Yeah.
So cute.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder how that's gonna
Like
play out,
Romeo and
especially with
Juliet.
Mechatork stuck in his suit and all that. I wonder if these two are going to help us rebuild him, if at all possible.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely be looking into that, and it's also good that they're having a larger role in the spotlight because, you know, Mechatork played a big role at the start of BFA, and then, you know, now he's obviously out of the picture, at least for a little bit. So now we have more, you know, gnome representation, and having the goblin, his story could play a role if we're getting the goblin model revamp in 825. It makes sense that the goblins would, you know, have more of a interesting story presence that's not totally one-dimensional, because Gallywix is pretty evil in all of his interactions. There's not much nuance or depth there, so it's nice having a more, you know, realistic Horde character.
Gallywix clearly shows emotion for treasure. Like when we kill
Yeah.
Opulence, he is heartbroken.
No.
Yep.
Poor guy. But then again, the couple would stay away from the Horde, I imagine. Like last time that they were dealing with the Horde, they nearly got blown up.
Yeah. So that could be interesting, like having neutral goblins. I mean, that sort of, there is precedent for that with how we have the 4, you know, goblin towns like Ratchet and Booty Bay that the Alliance, you know, interact with and are friendly towards.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we also have another quest line on Magni's Resolve, which also may have hints about the patch day.
Oh, yeah, this is an interesting one.
Yeah. So, unsurprisingly, Azeroth is not healing.
Yeah. Poor
and
Azeroth.
Azerite is making things worse.
Yep.
So exciting. So Magni has this idea. He reunites with his brother Bran, and they decide to help relocate Mother to the Chamber of Heart. And they have some run-ins with some faceless ones along the way, but then she is safely relocated. And it's interesting how the faceless ones are showing up. And the other interesting thing is what she says when she's in the Chamber of Heart. She says, Magni's like, now that we've brought you here, can you find a way to heal Azeroth? And she's like, comprehensive analysis will require approximately 77 cycles. And Magni's like, how long before we have a plan of action? And she's like, I don't know, I'm calculating. So people are thinking that the 77 days reference could be a reference to Legion and how a lot of the earlier patches were spaced 77 days apart. And if you count from March 5th, which is right after LFR, you could hit May 26th, I believe, 77 days after.
Mm-hmm. So that's could potentially be the next patch.
Yeah, so that could be Rise of Ashara. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the timing feels pretty good as well with everything. Like May is it's at the towards the end of May, and then that would mean we already had some estimation before that we're probably getting some things in June, July as well. And
yeah.
Did we talk about?
So that's for 8.2, right? So when would 8.1.5 be then? Like March-ish.
Yes.
Yeah, I think 815 would be the week after LFR. So maybe like March 5th, that would make sense.
All right.
And what was also interesting was in the season 2 conquest point schedule, it lists 25 weeks of conquest rewards, and that takes us, I believe, to July 16th, or sometime mid-July. So we maybe have all like the opening story quest in, you know, May, and then in July we get the raid.
And so
then,
kind of similar to this patch, where like the patch came first, but then the raid comes a bit later.
Yeah. And then what is also interesting is oh yeah, so if 815 comes in March, we would get like Kul Tiran and Zendalari then, but then we have that mini raid which could come in, say, April to tide people over for raiding the Crucible of Storms, and that could space things out more too.
Easy. Did you mention that Azerite was not working when it comes to healing the world? Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually in the quest dialogue. It's like this gathering of the Azerite, it's not working.
Yeah. Let's see. What does it say? Yeah. At one point, Mother is like, your presence means that Azeroth is in grave danger. She's like, she's like, speaker means that I'm in danger. And he's like, yeah, I know that. That's why I'm here.
All right. I thought you meant like us gathering Azra and Necklace. That whole plan was just failing, but it seems to be more like we're not putting much effort in it.
Well,
or too much focus on the war efforts.
I think it's kind of both. Let me just see it. Let me pull up the exact quest. But yeah, Mother is like, security activated. Like a speaker means, Azeroth is suffering a threat. And Magni's like, yeah, he's like, Azeroth's not getting better, so we need another plan.
It's like, well, right, yeah, that
way. So he's admitting that the current setup is not working out, which could be an interesting lore reason for why the Azerite system is getting revamped.
I was just gonna say, like, does that mean that we would maybe get sort of a reference in the lore as well for why our neck is going to work differently?
Yeah, in the lore we got too many complaints, so we just changed it. That's the lore.
Yeah, Mother's like, I read the forums.
We want proper traits now. Oh, yeah.
That would be gorgeous. But I do remember, while going through the whole upgrade your necklace bit, that the further we went, the more and more Void influence were pouring out, even though the more and more Azrai were dropping in there. So I wonder if the more and more Void effects we're going to see in that direction.
Yeah, also, as we're trying to get Mother to relocate, the Faceless ones do just pop out and start attacking.
Yeah.
And if you remember the special little cutscene that plays when you hit Revered with Champion of Azeroth, there's another Faceless one that shows up. And at that time, Magni's like, he's like, they're just drawn to this, it's nothing. But now it's like, they keep showing up. That's probably not a good sign.
Yeah.
I'm still hoping for Azeroth to wake up with just the massive hangover, like half infected by old gods and all that. It would be great.
Yeah.
Like, how dare you have a faction war? I am in my sickbed here. How dare you?
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's it. We're gonna die.
I'm important, not Sylvanas.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the quest we want to discuss the most is the 815 Horde War campaign, which introduces player choice and is also based on the choices you made in the Sourfang questline.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking about the Horde War campaign. Have we seen any player choices among the Alliance yet?
Not anything meaningful.
No.
Okay, yeah.
No.
But this is still really interesting because, like you said, it reflects the choices that you've made in the past, and then there's further choices to be made, and I think that's awesome. Do you want to...
Yeah, because what exactly happens? Because I was checking out the video, I saw the whole Derek Proudmoore get him off a boat. Can you choose it not to get him off the boat?
So, Bane is like, enough is enough. I'm going to reunite Derek with Jaina. And he's like, Sylvanas won't know. I'm going to kind of concoct this elaborate plan to make it seem like something else was going on, and we didn't do this.
Mm-hmm.
You have the choice. Well, the dialogue is different if you sided previously with Sourfang or Sylvanas. But you have a choice to report this to Nathanos or not.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You have a choice to report it. So either you go back to Nathanos and you tell him, like, this is what happened, and he will go back to the Banshee Queen, or you won't tell him at all.
Right. Yeah. And then
either
way, it goes along, and then canonically, someone tattletaled on Bane because Sylvanas then
still finds out
a meeting with all the Horde leaders, has an enemy territory, and then confronts Bane and Zelling, who helped him.
I mean, Tattletale, they steal a freaking ship, though. Like, that does not go unnoticed. Like, they take the entire ship.
It was like, they were pirates.
Yeah, they were trying to make a fake story around it to explain how it happened.
Right.
Yeah.
But the truth came out anyways, so she found out.
Yeah, and there's special dialogue, depending on who you side with, there's special dialogue leading up to the meeting, where it's like, if you side with Sylvanas, they say, Bane's a traitor, he's being brought before the leaders of their hold. But if you don't side with Sylvanas, it's just like, there's a meeting, it's important for you to show up.
Right.
So it's interesting how there's sort of more a butterfly effect, how what happened in 8.1 is affecting what goes on now. And then there's like two types of choices and effects that further happen. And there's almost four outcomes. Like if you always sided with Saurfang, if you sided with Sylvanas, but then you sided with Bane, and if you're like Sylvanas all the way, you have different options. So it's cool to see that growing.
I still wonder how much of an effect these choices are actually going to have. Like, it's nice to see that they have minor quest differences, but at the end of the day, we're all still going to the same conclusion in the storyline, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to get a split off at the end of the expansion, and then we're going to have 2 different expansions depending on your choices.
No, that'd be crazy. I don't think they would do that. Yeah. I don't know. What is realistically the best kind of differences we could see between them?
So
because we can't expect 2 expansions. Yeah.
So I always speculated that in Legion they had this quest team and they did all these different class storylines that were independent but related. And now in BFA, they obviously must have the same staff, but we have Alliance versus Horde, and they could put all those resources into making different quest lines based on player alignments instead of, classes. So maybe we'd end up with, like the lawful good quest line or the evil, quest line, and you would be incentivized to play your alts to do all the different storylines. And then you could give your alts different personalities to get really into the choices you make.
But do they still have the same resource that they had for Legion, though? Because when I compare Battle for Azeroth to Legion, it does seem to be somewhat of a difference in that regard.
I mean, I know what you're saying. I feel like it has to be... I feel like the raid had a lot that went into it, as well as the cinematic and the story team seems to have expanded, and how, in Legion, everyone had the same leveling experience, but in BFA... people had 2 very different leveling experiences, so maybe that was a lot of work that not everyone appreciates or realizes, because, if you play one faction, you don't know what the other half's doing.
Well, at the same time, they also cut the zones by 1, right? Wait, we have 5 zones in Legion, 6 in Battle for Azeroth, so 1 extra zone.
Yeah. And then there's then obviously there was 2 capital cities, while Legion had, Dalaran, which was cool, but that was more like a revamped existing city. But we had Borealis and Dazar'alor, so that's different. And then we learned at the Q&A that the Kulturan humans had the special rigs, so it took longer to make them an allied race. I do see what you're saying, though. I mean, obviously the Azerite system is pretty skimpy.
Yeah, it feels different. Like, that's what I'm saying. And when it comes to choice in the questline, like, so far we've had the different... There does seem to be a path that they want you to follow, and on one choice you get like a toy, and the other choice you just get a little bit of Azerite. It does seem to be pushing towards one direction of the storyline.
Right. This one doesn't have any rewards yet, although I'm not sure it's finished. But yeah.
So in the previous one, you got a toy only if you picked a certain path?
Yes,
yeah, you basically got like a quarter of the quest not available if you chose not to go with Saurfang.
Oh, that's
then you just
awkward.
did not experience that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you can should have any vanity items like locked away like that.
Yeah, or at least when you did something with your artifact, you're like, okay, if I go with the spec, I know I'm getting X weapon. Like I know what I'm going to get and what I won't get.
Yeah.
While it's like, oh, look, a toy, you're like, oh, well, maybe I really like toys, and now
you regret your choice because you don't have a toy anymore.
Yeah. That's why you make the alt, and you're like, I'm gonna have my RP Saurfang fan that also has toys, then I'm gonna like RP the evil Sylvanas follower that wants to turn him in.
Okay. I am curious though how big implications that it can make, the choices, because I don't know, could we have something as big a difference in this case, for example, with Bane, like one way he won't ever be imprisoned, and then one way he is, like.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen, right? Like, because then you would end up with 2 completely different storylines.
Right, and it's like, what's canon? Because like, I'm trying to reconcile how, suppose you say, Bane, I won't turn you in, but then someone turned him in later on. So is Bane telling multiple people for help? That doesn't make sense.
Right?
Like, people know he was doing this.
Mm-hmm. Because then your choice didn't really matter.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, we're still going to go to the same conclusion when it comes to the storyline. So it's nice to see these little choices. Nice, especially when we think back to the feedback that we got during Mr. Pandaria. A whole lot of people wanted to side with Garrosh, and they had no alternative but to go with the whole rebellion and be against him. And now we have a small indication, a small choice of, okay, I am with Sylvanas, I am loyal to her, rather than going with this rebellion again. So it is nice, but... I doubt it's going to have massive effects on it.
Well, I think maybe it would be interesting if say the factions get reworked, if maybe if like all your choices aligned towards one path, you had to do slightly less to, I don't know, unlock being friendly with a certain group, like I don't know, an 8.4.
Can you imagine the feedback on that one? Like, Blizzard, look, you
Reputation.
never told me that if I stuck with her, I would get like 10%
Yeah.
extra experience. Excuse me?
Yeah, I can picture that. But I think it would be cool if this system could be developed and did get more sophisticated. And they talked about this a little at the lore Q&A actually, where Taryn Gregory was saying that they wanted to use it very sparingly in high moments of impact. So like not every quest would have a player choice, but a few of them would like add this to, improve the flavor of things. Although it does still seem a little weird how the character's the hero of everything, because we're going from, well, like we're sort of in every important situation at once. I mean, we're going from freeing Sourfang to like just assisting the Thanos raising night elves in Darkshore. So we do have some player choice, but then we're also present for all these important story moments that contradict themselves that someone probably wouldn't be present at everything for.
Well, that's always the question you gotta ask. Like, is the hero actually there, or is it just a way of showing us what happened? Because, for example, fights like Illidan, we know canonically we fought Illidan at the Black Temple, but at other times they'll give the credit to just Thrall or whoever is amongst the Horde. So it's not always us that gets to play part of it.
Yeah, and we'll discuss this a bit later, but when we get to the Battle of Dazar'alor, obviously, the Horde wasn't present killing Rastakhan, and your character is specifically seeing that as a flashback. You're not actually present for that, and then there's even some discussion of like, well, are you remembering the events correctly? Because, you don't like the Alliance to begin
with.
Yep. Somebody in the chat mentioned or reminded about the guy who was working for Witcher 3, who's now come over to Blizzard. And maybe his story can have an effect and maybe help out with all these different paths in story, because I know that's very popular in Witcher 3, having choices that change stories and paths. So that could be interesting.
Yeah, but it's two different game types, though.
It is for sure. Yeah, no, definitely.
I mean, it could just bring fresh air or have a different perspective, which could be worked in. But yeah, we don't even know if he's working on WoW yet, or.
Oh yeah, because it just said Blizzard, right?
Or,
yeah, you're right.
Another thing that was interesting though about this quest was also discussing the implications on what's going to happen to Bane and all the data mine texts on how the leaders are reacting to him. So we actually everything we talked about we played through, but then we data mined dialogue yesterday where everyone present is sort of like, we don't like Sylvanas, this is awkward, but if we speak out, like, we'll be in prison too, so we don't know, what to do about stuff.
That sounds eerily familiar to a different storyline and expansion that I know. Huh.
So Annie, I think, is going to show a few on the screen. So I think
you can mention Annie and we'll go for it.
Yeah. So, I think we're going to highlight Lillian Voss because she was the one who, at the start of BFA, sounded actually more pro-Forsaken than she did in past expansions, and she was helping Thomas Zelling become Forsaken, and said she was going to watch out for him.
Just a little. Just a little different.
But now she, obviously, Sylvanas punishes and kills him as a result of helping Bane, free Derek. But she says, if they ever ask how he met his fate, I will tell him that he died a hero. We Forsaken are raised with free will. That's what separates us. Sylvanas Windrunner used to take pride in that distinction. But after all I have seen in that war, I must wonder if that still holds true. So, she's turning back on Sylvanas, and she's saying, hey, maybe Sylvanas doesn't have the best interests of the Forsaken, and, there's not too much free will, which is something we've also been wondering when Sylvanas is just, raising night elves in Darkshore, and they're just suddenly, follow Thanos, or how she's like, I'm gonna raise Derek and then use him to get back on the Alliance. So she's not really following those Forsaken principles.
And it's weird as well, those Night Elves, especially on the Darkshore campaign, where they all of a sudden just turn around. In their final moments, they were like, curse you, Loon. And the one that caused all this trouble for them is, oh, you rest me? Ah, I'm on your side now. Easy,
Yeah,
let's
like,
go.
Loon abandoned us. And it's like, well, this Sylvanas set your
She
home
caused
on
it!
fire.
What? She did all this. Why are you fighting with her? But that's apparently how it happens. And I was thinking about that the other day. I think they actually, well, not a mistake, but I always found it odd that they did the whole Forsaken have free will bit. Considering you gotta wonder, like, if you're a citizen of Lordaeron, why would you team up with the Banshee Queen in the first place? But apparently that's the thing. And what you mentioned with Lillian now turning against the Banshee Queen, like, if you had told me a couple of years ago that we would see Lillian Voss working for Sylvanas, yeah, it's so against her character.
Yeah.
Completely against the character. And I wonder if it has to do because they just don't have that many well-known Horde characters anymore, so they had to do something. Similar with Garona.
Yeah. Another interesting one that we also were like, why is she being friendly with the Horde is Garona, who previously was, saying like, oh, I'll, fight against the Alliance. I killed one king. I'll help you again in the war campaign. And we're like, that's kind of harsh. This seems a bit, heavy-handed for her. And in her dialogue, she's making it seem like it was more of an act. And she says, you see what happened to Bane, to Zelling. That's why we need to lay low, keep our heads down, follow the war chief's lead, at least for now. Bane's mistake wasn't acting against Sylvanas. His mistake was acting too soon.
Ooh.
So she's tipping her hand that, maybe some of this, pro-Horde, pro-Sylvanas, I hate the Alliance, was kind of an act and out of character for her, but she was just saying that so she and the Uncrowned wouldn't be suspected of anything they were doing behind the scenes.
Well, not necessarily. At the same time, it could also be the same reasoning that Lillian has, that Garona at first thought that following Sylvanas was a good idea, and only now are they opening their eyes and they're like, no, we must take action.
Right, but she does say his mistake was acting too soon, so maybe she was working on something for a long time, because like she was super pro-Horde. She's like, oh yeah, I love killing Alliance kings, and it's like, you were kind of in charge.
Yeah, that was very weird. Yeah, a lot of people immediately speculated that it has to be Uncrowned, like they are working on their investigation and whatnot. I really hope so. Like what they did with Garona, oof.
Yeah. Let's see. Which you want to highlight next? So Overlord Gayara is like, why? Because she's like taking Sylvanas' side, because she wasn't around for the whole Garrosh thing. And she's all like, Sylvanas is no orc, but the war chief shows strength by punishing that Tauren who deceived and betrayed her. Those who lack loyalty also lack honor.
Well, what does she don't know? Like, she just came over from alternate reality, where she followed Gromar's Hellscream, What does she know?
And it's like, hey, you kind of missed Mr. Pandoria in Sourfang's whole speech, so,
As well as, like, the whole idea of honor, they need to define it at some point, because everybody amongst the Horde seems to have their own idea of what it means to be honorful.
Yeah.
And when you have somebody like Sourfang that's constantly like, it's against my honor. I can't do it, my honor! And then somebody else is like, yeah, but you can't betray the Banshee Queen because that's against your honor. It's all over the place.
It just sounds like political rhetoric. Everyone's like, honor is such a good term to use, and we're just going to say someone has no honor to make them look bad or guilt them into doing something they don't want to do.
Just throwing the word around.
Who else did we highlight? I can't remember on the screen.
Let's see.
I think Lorthamar and...
Yeah, did we talk? Yeah, no, we didn't. Yeah, we have Lorthamar as well.
Yeah. So Lorthamar and then the Nightborn are interesting because Lorthamar is like, through this act of defiance, he exposed a schism in the Horde that has been growing since the attack on Teldrassil. I fear that by openly opposing Sylvanas, he may have put his own people at risk, as mine would be were I to side with him. And then we have our rebellion against Elisand was just, and it earned me a blade in the back. I pray Bane does not meet a similar fate. The Nightborn are still new to the Horde. Perhaps I should seek Lorthamar's counsel. He understands what my people have endured. So both of them don't really seem too happy with the Horde, but they also seem concerned that if they stand out, they will meet the same fate as Bane, and then their people will also be crushed by Sylvanas.
So it's not the same story as Mr. Pandaria, except everything happens the same as Mr. Pandaria. Like, what the heck? Yeah. That's exactly what he said during Garrus's reign. Like, oh, we're so terrified. What should realistically happen to those who were there They should all turn around and be like, look, Sylvanas, you're being in Garrosh right now. Like, either you do something else, or we are going to rise up against you, because we all know what's going to happen, right? Somebody's going to rise up, be it Sourfang or Bane, and they're going to lead the Darkspear Rebellion. Like, what?
Yeah, none of them mention Garrosh at all in their dialogue. They're just like,
Yeah, that's
oh no,
interesting.
actually, Gallywix even says, I didn't see this coming.
Like, what?
Yeah.
It's so, and to hear them in the Q&A say as well that we're doing another Mr. Pandaria because they did not like the resolution at the end of the expansion. It's so disappointing. Like, really. I would have loved to see a different storyline. But I still wonder if the Sylvanas' fate is going to be the same as Garrosh. They did say it was not going to be another Garrosh. But then again, if they don't put her on trial, then they did not technically lie.
Well, yeah, because she made Garrosh look like an amateur, according to BlizzCon. So it's like, is she going to be strong so we don't capture her? Is she going to just make things miserable for everyone? Like, maybe
compared to what Garrosh has done, which put him on the... I can hear myself.
Yeah, I just heard echo again as well.
That's better.
Yeah, there you go.
But compared to what Garrosh did in order for the whole Darkspear Rebellion, like what Sylvanas has done so far makes Garrosh look like an amateur. Like,
yeah.
She has done way, way, way more. But I still really wonder if it's actually going to end with a Darkspear Rebellion, or if Sylvanas is going to, I don't know, sacrifice herself against a greater threat or something like that. I really hope so. Keep my fingers crossed. But...
Yeah, I thought that she was going to sacrifice herself. Like, I thought, oh, you know, she's going to take this blade and make the old gods, you know, work for herself, and she's going to be, like, immune to the old gods because she's undead. But then all the 815 text makes it seem like N'Zoth wanted the blade behind from Xal'atath, and he wanted to use that blade to do something or plant a seed with it. So you sort of wonder if now N'Zoth is trying to control Sylvanas and kind of just put the dagger in front of her.
Yeah, the whole idea of Sylvanas being immune to the old gods was also a lot based on speculation and little information. So it could be that the old gods could still corrupt her, but I think they also are pushing towards the idea of the old gods seeing death as the true enemy, right? Like, that's what he's mentioning in the whispers.
Yeah, and Sylvanas, you know, she said before to Bane, she's like, you know, my war, my problem, like, I want to master death. So maybe she'd be opposed to them. Because she doesn't want to die. She does not want to end up in that, you know, purgatory with Arthas being tortured forever. She wants her Valkyrie. She doesn't want to die. She just wants to stay in her current state.
I still wonder if that hell was actually real. Like, if we go with the idea of there being somebody behind Vol'jin, I wonder if that was the person that showed her this hell and kept her pushing on.
Yeah, I mean, Icecrown had all the, you know, Saronite, all the whispers. She could have been manipulated into, you know, seeing a vision that wasn't real.
Well, that's what I previously thought, like, under the influence of Yogg-Saron and all that. But then a recent Q&A, they were like, yeah, the old gods that we fought so far are dead. Like Warcraft dead, so they can make a return whenever they're needed for the story, but for now they're gone. So if Yogg-Saron is gone, then who would actually have been manipulating her?
I thought they said in another Q&A that they just were weakened and could always come back. I think that was in a BlizzCon Q&A with like a French site, Mammy Twink, that was talking about how Crucible of Storms was like a tip of N'Zoth and the other old gods were just sort of dormant. I feel like they just sort of changed their minds on old gods a lot.
Yep.
Oh, no.
And like I said, it's Warcraft dead. Like, whatever dies in Warcraft can make a return in a month.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes.
Yeah, I think I remember thinking that with the Scarab Lord. I think people were debating, like, oh, are the old gods dead? And then someone dug up a quote saying that the old gods were just kind of weakened and, like, you know, stuff could happen again. And then everyone's like, oh no, the sword is Cthulhu gonna just come up and be alive and happy. There's so much Azerite near him. And there was some quote making it seem that the old gods were not, like, dead and gone.
Mm-hmm. But like you said, they change their mind often. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good transition to the Crucible of Storms intro cutscene where we see an old god who is very much not dead.
I can play the cutscene straight away.
Yeah, let's do that first.
Let's do that in case anyone has not seen it yet.
Hear me, God of the Deep. I have brought you the Opener, the bringer of truths, the torch that lights the way. Honor our bargain. Free me to find my own fate.
Go. But the blade must remain to serve my will.
A fair exchange. Shadows guide you, my dear friend. We will meet again. I am certain of it.
I have dreamed your destiny, mortal. The hour is close at hand. That which was sunken shall rise. All that were sleeping shall be awakened. Receive my gift and see all truths before you.
There we go. We're back now.
Apparently that was really, really loud.
Yeah, I turned it down. I hope that was okay. It was at 100% first. It was going into red, and then I turned it down to about 80%. Hopefully that was okay.
Hmm.
But yeah, we finally see N'Zoth in the game. We've been
Yep.
waiting for this moment.
Yeah, so exciting. And
Xanathov, though. Have you heard her whispers? Have you heard her voice? Ah, it's like sex in the sword. It's great.
well, she's not in the sword anymore. She is free will.
Even
Yes.
better. She's like, if you free me, I'll reward you. You know.
Yep. And
Just
then
let me
she's
free.
just like, bye, I'm going to the Void Portal.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so she's gonna show up. I think she's gonna show up, like, in a few expansions, or she's gonna be... I feel
Oh,
like she's gonna
having a
be a
bigger role.
Rathian-type figure.
Mhm.
Oh, really?
And just, like... Yeah, like, just
Oh.
sort of be this mysterious thing and just keep coming back and growing, and we don't know what she's doing or what side she's on, but she'll sort of be... I don't know. She'll just, like, her role and personality will just keep developing. Especially if, you know, they have to keep the old god narrative going and introduce more characters that are affiliated with them.
Hmm. I suppose it's an idea.
But
So
I
what
mean, she has a human model now. It could have been just like, free my essence, but it's like, no, she's like, I'm going to be a void elf, and I'm going to have my unique dress, and I'm going to be part of this cutscene too.
And the story behind it, as far as I understood it, is she has us gather these free artifacts that we use to unlock the bits at the N'Zoth cave, right?
Yeah.
And then that rolls into the fight itself in the Crucible of Storms.
Yeah, we see them placed there, and I believe that there's some crafted gear related to the raid that you need, or like you need to get a quest item that's the relic to use that item to craft the gear, and it has interesting like water sea procs, which is kind of cool.
Okay.
Also kind of sketchy. It's like, oh, we're gonna use the relics of Xanathaf to craft gear. Nothing will go wrong here.
Right.
But yeah, so it seems that, you know, obviously based on the dialogue, that she has struck the deal with N'Zoth, where, you know, we are the torch that lights the way, which is kind of ominous. And as thanks for what she's done bringing us to N'Zoth, she gets to be freed of the dagger. And if you remember the lore of Xanathaf, she was like a weaker old god who was like defeated and imprisoned in the blade.
Was that confirmed?
I think so. I think
There
that
were
was
two options, right? Like either she was the Claw of Yasharaj or like an old god. Stories, tales, and legends were not clear about that.
Yeah, I think that was. I mean, I think that was in the book, the Shadow Priest book. I'm pulling it up, but I think the idea was that she was imprisoned and obviously not happy with it, and you know, was very happy not to be in that dagger anymore, and you know, N'Zoth says, you know, like, you know, she says, I want to free me to find my own fate. And N'Zoth is like, yeah, but you have to leave the blade behind. And then it's like, oh, why does he want the blade? Oh, look, Sylvanas ends up with the blade. That's ominous.
It's interesting, though. Like, we know that apparently the blade can be a very powerful prison for a being, and if N'Zoth truly sees Sylvanas as such a threat to him, could he put her in the sword?
That could be interesting.
Could
like,
Sylvanas
he
whisper
he's
to
like,
me?
You know, being all cool, being like, oh, I got this blade. I can use it to turn people, you know, to serve my bidding. But instead, N'Zoth's like, no, I'm gonna put you in the blade. And
We'll have Sylvanas as the new waifu. Oh yes.
yeah.
The new waifu.
So yeah, I'm just reading the theories of Xal'atath. It's actually there are many theories concerning the blade's creation. The more outlandish claim that it is all that remains of a forgotten old god who was consumed by its kin in the early days of the Black Empire. Other theories state that Xal'atath is the claw of the old god I'm blanking on pronouncing, ripped from the old god's monstrous form and bestowed upon its servants for use in ritual sacrifices. Xal'atath pulses with the foul essence of the old gods and grant its owner visions of the Black Empire. All who have looked upon horrors have lost themselves to madness.
Right.
But I think Xal'atath has a hand in writing this book, so you don't know if that whole thing is made up.
That's for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, it definitely, a lot of this sounds very ominous, and, relates back to past whispers. We've got the torch that lights the way, 5 torches light our path, and we're a torch, which is like, oh, good job, us. We've got, the hour close at hand. That's another line we've heard. That which was sunken shall rise, all that were sleeping shall be awakened. So lots of, it feels like a lot of the prophecies are coming true in this cutscene, and we play a large role in it, which is not good news, because usually if we're fighting an old god, we're usually not helping them, or having a faction war between the Alliance and Horde. And we discussed the last show as well how you, at the end of the cutscene, like, you have that weird thing on your head, and that's the gift of N'Zoth, and you can choose to keep the gift of N'Zoth.
Another choice
and
one, yeah.
Choose to keep it. Only the you have this eyeball on your head, and only the followers of N'Zoth can see the eyeball on everyone else's head. So if you decide to cleanse it, you don't know who's like a secret fan of N'Zoth, which is super cool.
That is really, really cool. So a cosmetic choice you get at that point.
No, it just stays on your head. It's a buff.
Wasn't it a language too, or no?
I'm not sure. I think we were saying it would be interesting if you could talk an old god language, but I don't think that was confirmed.
All right, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Like having a real cult speaking together. Yeah.
And I think this further splitting us. Like, I remember in Chronicle they were talking about how Cho'Gall wanted to make sure the Alliance and Horde were fighting, so we would be weakened when we fought the old gods. And yeah, we're weakening ourselves pretty well with the Battle of Dazar'alor. And now, furthermore, N'Zoth is trying to be all chummy and being like, look, I gave you a gift, like, I can save you, and you can choose to keep his gift, so everyone is getting really splintered.
I wonder if that eye will also show you, like, hints at what's to come in the future. Like, if you look at Sylvanas, and you might see, like, a shadow standing behind it or something. That would be so cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
That would be so
cool.
cool.
Like a third eye showing you the way.
That'd be really fun.
And what he's talking about when it comes to what is Sunken will rise again, is that Ny'alotha? Or it's not been confirmed, has it?
It's not confirmed, but when we did the interview with Ian at BlizzCon, when we were talking about the patch name, Ian was just like, oh, like, Rise of Ashara doesn't mean, like, we're getting to know the character more. He's like, you can also view it, like, literally, and he was, like, doing, like, hand-raising motions.
Yes, I remember.
And so it's like, oh, look, the landmass is rising, and that's why it's not underwater in 8.2.
So most likely Nashatar then, like, the whole Naga Empire gonna come up. Okay. Well, that is one way to avoid going to Vashj'ir again.
Yeah, I don't think people want that.
N'Zoth is so helpful. He's like, if you work with me, I will prevent underwater zones.
Wait, wasn't there talk about having one underwater boss?
Yeah, there was. That's why we're asking at BlizzCon. We're like, so, like, this is meant to be underwater, but there's only one boss, and we are seeing a lot of pictures of things that are not underwater. How is that, like, going to happen? Like, lore-wise.
Well, because the whole land split apart, right?
Yeah.
Like the whole,
Yeah. But Ian was all like, he's like, well, there's a reason why things aren't underwater, and it's related to the title of the patch.
It's quite literal.
Yep. But yeah, so I think N'Zoth wants constant faction war, and I also think he wants to play upon her feelings, being like, yeah, he's like, things are really shit, like, these whispers are predicting that Sylvanas is, like, awful, or, Anduin is naive, and, Lyria might go to the void, and he's like, I know everything. I can save you. Like, keep my gift.
I'm going to accept that on all my characters. I don't even care what the alternatives are going to be. I'm going to serve the old gods. Done.
Yeah, I know. I'm definitely. I mean, seeing all the faction conflict give me such a headache. I'm just like, yeah, I'm team old gods. Like, they got their shit together.
Team old gods.
They're unified. They actually have a plan. They don't just want to obliterate.
They have a plan. They have a union, a good healthcare.
Oh
Old
my
gods.
Stars are like, I have a palace. While, the Knights of Horde are like, we're destroying our cities. And Ashar's like, I've got this beautiful palace with, like, jewels and coral and all these amazing things. So, I don't know. It's kind of funny. I mean, as a tangent, it's sort of interesting to think about Ashara, how, before all the horrible things happened, she had 10,000 years of being a pretty good ruler that, kept the peace with all these factions and was universally loved by all these different types of night elves, even if she personally didn't like them. And, she had a lot of peace.
Because of magic.
Yeah, but it's like, she did a better job than us, who were just, like, fighting each other every year, so...
If I would bet that if you give Sylvanas, like, a massive pool of power that nobody have access to, and spells that would literally make demons fall in love with her, I bet that everybody would love her too for 10,000 years. Easy.
Yeah, but if you read the artifact book with the Resto Shaman thing, they're like, oh, Ashara made, like, a palace, and it had a zoo and water gardens and delicacies, and, like, Sylvanas is just like, oh, I'm underground and I, like, torture people, and I have...
Can you imagine Sylvanas make a zoo with little undead creatures in there?
Oh my god.
Little Arthurs from Hearthstone, like barks. Ah, maybe she made a whole field where she buried humans in the field with, like, the heads sticking out just for you, and you can't even appreciate it. The beauty of the Undercity is lost upon you.
Oh my god.
Because she doesn't have a zoo. Azora is better, yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like, at least, I don't know, Ashara made an effort, and, like, she was, like, peaceful controls, and meanwhile, like, blowing up...
She tried to bring the Legion in, destroyed them. Because she tried to bone Sargeras. At least she tried, She had a zoo. She was amazing.
Hey, I
love this.
Basically what you're saying is Sylvanas put Pepe on her head, she would be the best leader ever. That's what I'm hearing right now.
I mean, I think Perk wouldn't say no to that, right?
You see, make a quest where the player choice and the Sylvanas choice, you get the Pepe toy. You can put the toy on Sylvanas' head. And then it'd be like, oh yeah, I have friends with Sylvanas.
Okay. So
Beautiful.
she has no say in it? Like, you choose to put Pepe on her head?
Yeah.
Okay. And then she's a good person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Question, before we move on, by the way, now that I think about it again, the whole N'Zoth bit. You remember how with most old gods we, like, encounter a tight facility? We were talking about this on Discord the other day, like Ankh-Karash and Yaxran Ulduar and Yashiraj with the whole Titan Vault. But with N'Zoth, we haven't really heard much about it, unless the whole Shrine of the Storm is Titan related. Do you think Nylofa could be Titan related?
Yeah, I think that could be tied to it. We know Crucible of Storms, based on that Mammy Twink interview, is like a tiny piece of N'Zoth. So yeah, I think what you said makes sense, and maybe after Ashara's Eternal Palace, we will go there.
Okay, cool.
I also think there was that Reddit theory, which I think makes sense, is that when you overlay all the maps with Chronicles, N'Zoth's prison is between Kultiras and Zandalar, which would make sense that if we're fighting on the high seas and we're clashing, we're sending all these, like, bodies with, Azerite down to N'Zoth, we could be kind of feeding him that way too. So I think that something's going to happen between the two islands. Maybe we're clashing again, and then the battle goes badly for both of us, and then horrible things happen.
So if all these whispers are turning out to be true, then I really wonder what lies Anduin has been telling us.
So it's interesting. We discussed this a few weeks ago, but there's also this data mine broadcast text I put in the article where Anduin is like, the Alliance stands on the brink of victory, of ending this conflict and bringing peace to Azeroth. And Sylvanas' equivalent line is, the Alliance believe that the Horde believe that by striking down Rastakhan and decimating the Zandalari fleet, they have broken us. Fools, the Boy King has lied to himself and his people. He hasn't the faintest inkling what he's truly up against. So maybe Anduin's just general optimism is like...
Considered a lie. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
It's like, okay, Anduin, how are you going to end the conflict? Like, that worked out so well when you marched into the throne room and was like, Sylvanas, please surrender. That didn't work out well at all. So, are you really close to ending the conflict? And how are you going to bring peace to Azeroth? Because, you know, the Night Elves are still pretty upset about Teldrassil.
Yep.
The Forsaken are pretty mad that their city got blown up. You know, everyone is agitated with each other. I'm sure the Zandalari won't like you, Anduin. So... yeah, he doesn't really seem to have a total grip on reality there.
But what's he gonna do? Simple. He's gonna follow Auntie Jaina and just dismantle the Horde. She's gonna stand behind him like, Anduin, do it. Do what your father could not.
Well, she has another line. He says, we are so close to ending this conflict and forging a lasting peace. I was like, how are you going to do that? Like, that sounds amazing, but you're kind of light on the details here.
Yeah, but I think that's the same when it comes to the whole motivation of going to Zandalar to begin with and fight Rastakhan to bring peace. And I think the idea that they have behind it is by weakening the Horde enough, by removing Sylvanas out of power. Because similar to Garrosh, like everything that the Horde did back then was pushed onto Garrosh, and he was the bad guy, whereas the Horde could do no wrong. They could do a very similar thing with Sylvanas now. If they remove Sylvanas from power, the other leaders can say like, yeah, we tried to fight against her, but we couldn't because we were afraid to be a Bane.
Yeah, I just feel that Anduin sounds overly confident, and that could be considered a lie because it's a really hard path to follow. Like, he's saying this after after what happened at Dazara and he's still like, oh yeah, peace is still happening, totally backfire with Rastakhan, but yeah, peace is on the way, under control.
Mm-hmm. And also that conversation, like you mentioned, the conversation right after the raid is very... no specifics, just
right,
kind of like, yeah, no, we're gonna go, we're gonna fight for peace, and it's like, okay, what are you gonna do exactly?
Right,
it's just vague talk.
We're going to submit them into peace, just kill them all.
We're gonna the light will blind them into peace. Brother Pike is the only one with a decent line because he's like, the old god wants us fractured, divided. I fear this war has given N'Zoth exactly what he wanted. So he seems to know what's up, at least. Meanwhile, Sylvanas
Brother
is
Pike? Wait. Brother Pike was talking about N'Zoth?
Yeah, because in the 815 Xal'atath thing, he will cleanse the gift of N'Zoth if you choose to have it cleansed.
Oh, all right. So he was already, I guess because they all do the whole communication with the sea thing. That they already are familiar with N'Zoth.
Sage and Olukashara, took our fleet away, and yeah.
I haven't really heard him mention the name N'Zoth, though, during our questing Stormsong Valley. You'd imagine that he would mention that. Right,
well, he's part of the 815 questline. Like, he's like, help get rid of the Naga, and you're like, as we were doing this, Xal'atath told us to get relics, and, now I have the gift of N'Zoth, and he's like, oh god, this is horrible. So,
I could just see the reaction as well. Oh god, oh no.
And it's actually kind of funny, because the dialogue at first is like, he's like, this is a setback, but it's okay, and then you have a dialogue option where you're like, I have the gift of N'Zoth, and he's like, this is very serious.
Cool.
So... but yeah, so he seems to know what's up, while Anduin, meanwhile, is like, things are great, and Sylvanas is like, I'm so excited to get Xal'atath, and she's all paralleling the whispers, because she says, anything that slumbers can be awakened, the dagger is a torch that shall light our path forward, and it's like, that sounds like an old god is talking through you, Sylvanas.
And she does not give specifics on what she's going to do with Xal'atath.
No, she just says, war is a living thing. It grows, twisting and turning until its final form is revealed. This war is about to shift yet again, and it will be this blade that guides our way to victory.
So she's just going to hang it up in the throne room, and then we're going to have a three-phase fight, and she's going to slowly but surely absorb the blade into her, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
No, okay, cool.
Yep.
Sounds familiar somehow. I don't know why.
Yeah, but Xalatath is cooler than Xalatow. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. But yeah, if we don't have any other thoughts on the Crucible of Storms, we can discuss some of the recent Q&As that took place, which covered some, PTR things, but also some live season 2 things that people might be caring about as well.
I think there was quite positive feedback after this Q&A. A lot of people felt like they got questions answered in ways that haven't been answered in the past. It was quite good information on a lot of the things. The first topic here was GCD, not a very popular topic among a lot of people. It was one of those things that players felt like they were forced upon, not something that they had asked for. Blizzard felt like it had to be done to stagger certain gameplay, to not make it too bursty and just flow better in one way or another. But people pointed out how it's very boring to, for example, press a cooldown and nothing happens for a whole second. So you're just standing there waiting to hit something. And they are actually, not only have they removed a bunch of abilities off the GCD, they're also changing current ones, some of them, to have a more cool effect as you use them. So the example that was given by Ian was Ascendance. He said, imagine you press Ascendance, which takes a second, but your teammates are about to die. You're not sure if it's worth to press it or not, because that means you're spending a second doing nothing. So instead, with this new change that will most likely come in 8.15, pressing Ascendance itself is a huge heal in itself. So it's I think it said that it was going to send out a healing wave towards everyone. So in that way, it's not just pressing a second and waiting for the effect. It's pressing it, getting stronger, and also doing a big heal at the same time. So in that way, you're not wasting time. It's not going to feel clunky, and it's going to feel a lot more fluid. And I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense, and it kind of keeps their idea that they wanted initially with the whole GCD thing. And at the same time, I think players can also be happy that it has an actual effect in it. And I'm guessing that the effect itself is also going to be a strong one, so it'll be, better than pressing, I don't know, chain heal.
Maybe
or
it'll look cool as well to make
I'm sure it'll look
feel
cool too. Yeah.
special. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have no strong feelings about this. Like, global cooldown is out of my area.
Yeah, some people are really into it, and it's always like, you mentioned GCD, and everyone's like, oh, I'm gonna click on this article from Discord and read it on Wowhead. So this next one was a little more controversial. Blizzard, so at the time of this Q&A, Limit and some other guilds were swapping to Alliance because there was this overwhelming odds PvP quest that gave a 400 piece of gear. And Ian was like, yeah, we messed up. That was probably too much, too strong. It will be 385 in the future, and maybe some weeks it won't even show up because the enlisted bonus is shifting. And that came true. There actually was not a PvP quest this week because so many Alliance had War Mode on that it didn't trigger that overwhelming odds quest. And he said that in the future it would be 385.
So that's
it was
for
on the
NA.
EU side, by the way.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was an EU. So the way that it works is if you have at least 20% bonus XP for switching on a War Mode, you will also have this quest line. So I think for NA right now, the Alliance War Mode bonus is 15%, I guess, because it's been a lot more balanced. On EU, it's still 20%, so it's still down from 30, and we do still get a quest. And the reward is indeed a 385 piece instead.
Which is still very nice, but I really wonder if it's the way to promote War Mode, though.
Yeah, I don't like it, honestly. I had no idea this was an Alliance quest only until this whole controversy came up with the item level 400 piece. I thought both sides had a PvP quest to just encourage PvP.
Well, it was further exacerbated by the NA only fiasco where, I guess it was, like, you guys were at fault because you guys ticked your War Mode over faster before Blizzard did the eye level boost. So you guys ticked it over too early, and NA waited a few hours later. So the rewards from the Warfront for Alliance started at 400, while you guys on EU had it at 385.
Yep. I think we unlocked it like literally the day before. I don't know why people were sending in contributions.
Amazing timing, guys.
So wait, you are able to affect the percentage then? I thought that was just automatic.
No, I think
I actually don't know.
I think if no one does it, it eventually will get into like a very slow automatic growth, but you can make it go faster.
All right. I was under the impression that the quests were just there to get artifact power. Like, the illusion of making it faster was there, but it was still just on a timer based.
I think it was like the Mage Tower.
All right.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure. But I assume that we do have a power over it, but I'm actually not 100% sure. That was funny though that we pushed it too
early. They all
early.
went berserk and they all activated on Easter, and that was apparently the AI going berserk, and it was generating too quickly.
But what do you guys think could be done for war mode to be promoted better? Because I don't think giving a quest is. I mean, I guess in a way their stats show that it's working because people are switching on war mode to finish the quests, and that's why the percentages are decreasing. But what do you think will happen when Alliance doesn't have that bonus? Do you think it'll shift back?
I mean, for me personally, if they want me to turn on war mode, just give me reputation bonus.
Right? That's something I've been
That's
wanting.
all I really need.
Like, sometimes people ask me, why not war mode? Like, the 30% bonus. I'm like, yeah, 30% Azeroth. Like, I don't care. If it was reputation, however, I would have done it. But then is that
quicker
fair?
Loot boxes?
Is that fair, though, for people who may be, interested in reputation farming but are on the wrong faction?
So I think if you want to balance Alliance and Horde, and there's such an issue with people feeling they all have to be Horde because it would be too expensive to, transfer, even if, Mythic Plus ratios are better for Alliance in some cases, that if they just had a free transfer weekend, that could maybe balance things out again.
I think making free transfers from certain, more dead servers, or no, the other way around, from popular servers to specific faction and server to specific faction and server. I think that could work, because I think that's what they used to do in the past. I remember seeing that in Wrath of the Lich King or Cataclysm times, where sometimes I would get the option like, hey, by the way, you have a free faction change right now from this server to this server if you want to take that. And I think that could maybe help with the balancing a little bit. I don't think these quests will in the long run help anything.
Alternatively, I've also heard people suggest that instead of turning off war mode whenever you go to the city, that you're stuck with it for the entire day or the entire week, rather than just constantly turning it on and off in case you get a quest for it or not. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
A week might be harsh, though, but yeah.
I mean, for 400 item level, I'll turn on war mode for easy.
But then, yeah, I mean, and then it's like, oh my god, I got ganked by all these people by flight masters, and now things are going so much slower, so I was inefficient at getting my other stuff down, and now I've missed out on X pieces of gear. And
yeah, what if you end up not being able to do a quest, and then after that you never want to do it again because there's a risk?
Yeah.
I mean, then that's the choice you gotta make. Like, for me personally, why should I turn on war mode at all? Like, what benefit is there? I only turn it on because the gear was there. And you're just outnumbered all the time. Not to mention that the invasions that are going on is a good incentive to get some world PvP going. Except then you realize that the servers can't handle it, and you're just fighting with lag, which is no fun.
Yeah, that was another topic at the live blog, and Ian was saying that it was top priority, but it's not a simple, easy fix, and there's 1,000 little things that go wrong, and then that drags everything down. And that it's an ongoing process, and he was saying it would be cool if the engineers could do a blog so they could explain in great detail how they're trying to improve things and why it's so challenging.
Would be nice,
Yeah. So they had a few positive things they revealed to get it some hype. They said that they are thinking that in 815 you could have all 50 characters on one realm, as opposed to, I think we're limited to 16, one for each race and allied race. And a way of having war resources available on transfer from mains to alts. So those are good quality of life changes, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I actually didn't realize until they talked about it that we have, what is it? We actually have 18 slots now per server, or 16 was it? Which is crazy. I didn't realize that.
I think Yeah, I think it's gonna. I think the idea is that it was gonna keep going up when like Kulturas and Zandalori are at it, but then they're just like, yeah, if you want to have 50 alts on one server, go ahead.
Yeah, I think they will do that. Might as
Will they
well.
also offer you the option to transfer from realm to realm then? Or is it only you'll get 50 slots, go fill them up?
Yeah, I think it's like
it's
slots you can go fill them up. Like you won't get the issue like you have too many characters on the server.
Yeah.
Like they just
Right,
remove that
okay.
restriction. I don't think they'll offer any changes of servers. And
So,
another thing they talked about was the Heart of Azeroth that we mentioned briefly earlier on. That the system is going to
Looking forward
change.
to that so much.
You what? Sorry.
Looking forward to that, to
Yeah,
those
me
changes.
too. Sorry, your voice cut off for like a second. Yeah, me too.
Ah.
I feel like that's going to be really exciting because I'm not a big fan of like leveling your necks to get certain levels, to unlock certain rings. It's not very fun at all. And apparently it's going to be a little bit more similar to Legion's artifact weapon because, you know, why remove a system that is decent? Let's be inspired by it instead and make something cooler, hopefully. So the idea is that we will learn or unlock certain abilities, active abilities, and powers by doing different things in the game, such as maybe killing a boss or maybe completing a certain quest line, maybe doing something in PvP, and get these cool new abilities and powers that might have, you know, really cool visuals as well. Maybe they will look more Azerite-like, very yellow and blue. Who knows?
Would be
so
nice.
my thing is that I think it's a step in the right direction. But I was really excited as he was talking, and then I felt let down because he said, "Oh, you know, we like the appearance system of Legion's artifacts weapons, so we're gonna do something similar." And I'm like, "But I just want the visual progression back." Like I think that unlocking the abilities and powers from certain types of content is I think that's a good step. But I just think that some people really wanted that visual distinction. You know, they want to be AFKing in a city with a sign that shows that, you know, they've done this cool thing like the Mage Tower, as opposed to, oh, well, now in the raid, like, I have this awesome DPS, you know, cooldown. Maybe that's a cool animation even, but I just think it's good to have more permanent character customization tied to the Heart of Azeroth.
100%. Because right now,
So
the
you
whole
just-
Azar system is already unpopular. And then on top of that, there's nothing to show off. There's nothing that looks cool. There's nothing like, hey, look at this. And that's
Right.
something that the Legion artifact weapon did have. You were proud to go around with it. Like most of us, or at least I was, often using the transmog options that I had for the weapon rather than transmogging into something else. And the Azerite pieces, like the set pieces, have already been pretty boring, at least in my opinion. And having some kind of cosmetic thing to look forward to, I think, is good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, another thing which I didn't put in the notes, but I just wanted to mention, we touched upon it before, was Ian gave like an actual interesting technical reason why Kultiran and Zandalari were not coming you know,
Yeah, that
earlier.
was
And
really
there was an
good.
interesting Yeah. So basically they were saying that all the allied races were sort of using pre-existing character skeletons and it was easier to do, but for Kultiran, it's a brand new race and it wouldn't be ready for launch. And the plan was to have Dark Iron and Zandalari at BFA launch and then Maghar later on. But they're saying it didn't really seem fair to not have Kultiran, and then when they rushed to add them, then it would make sense to launch them with Zandalari, so they pushed Zandalari back to align with when Kultiran was ready. So I find it interesting because the Maghar orcs were meant to come a bit later in BFA, and with all this talk of, you know, the light and the void, and we're seeing how the void's evil in BFA, it would have been interesting if the Maghar orcs were meant to line up with all this void and be like, hey, the light can be pretty bad too, because, you know, the recruitment scenario is all about how the light is, you know, horrible to the Maghar.
Yeah, I wonder. Like, I was thinking about that the other day as well. Hi,
Ooh,
myself.
Echo again. Yeah. I guess we just give it a moment. I think usually just disappears suddenly. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, in the Jade Fire Masters, we do see the Maghar fighting with them. So it has been a while since they made the decision to change that. And when you're talking about the whole light and void thing, that's in connection to the N'Zoth Crucible storyline?
Yeah.
All right, so that's when they will be added. Ah,
Yeah.
cool.
I think that when they committed to this plan, they decided that they wanted the 4 new allied races to be featured in the early part of the raid. So, you know, we've got the Dark Iron and the Zandalari Paladins, and then we have the Maghar Monk and the Kultiran Mage. So it's sort of like a teaser for all the BFA allied races, like, oh, this boss looks cool. Guess what? You can be them. So I think it was deliberate they put them into the raid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I know that a lot of people were very upset about Zandalari trolls. Like, come on, Blizzard, it was mentioned in BlizzCon 2 BlizzCons away, or 2 BlizzCons ago even. So why can't we still not play them? Why do we still have to wait? But yeah, the reasoning was an understandable one. Kultiran was not planned, or it was considered but not 100% planned to be added to the game because it's not like the other allied races where it's actually very similar to another like original race. It is its own race, you know, built from the core, its own skeleton and everything. It's built from scratch, and that takes extra time. And by the time they decided like, hey, you know what, we are going to go for it, they realized it's going to take some time, and it would make most sense, of course, to unlock Zandalari trolls together with the Kultiran. So if you want to blame anything, it's the originality of Kultiran, which is why the Zandalari trolls have been so delayed. And I think that's an understandable one. And I appreciate that they gave us like the real reasoning, like the technical reason for it.
Yeah. So there was also another interview with the German fan site Vanian.eu with Ian, which I think Blizzard was reaching out to some various European sites and influencers. And this was an interesting counterpart to the Q&A because there was a lot of like frank questions that aren't the type of questions Blizzard usually picks to answer at the official Q&As. So like they were all like, why is there negativity in Battle for Azeroth? Like, what's up with the crafted gear? Like, if you could change things before a BFA, what would it be? Why is this weird, you know, Baron's Warfront data mined? So I thought this was a very interesting Q&A. So yeah, just to highlight some things, the Baron's Warfront speculation, they said that nothing is planned. That was an early internal prototype when they were first developing BFA, and it was a test bed, and most things were taken out, and it wasn't even part of alpha testing. And that's interesting because I know a lot of people were speculating that, oh, you know, if the final Warfronts is Barons, then, you know, we're gonna, you know, fight in Barons and then, like, you know, go to Orgrimmar again, but that's apparently not the case. But, you know, it was interesting to speculate about back in the day. They also said that there will be less time between the Ashara patch and the start of the raid than there was between 8.1 and Season 2, and that was partially due to the holidays. You know, the December break. They didn't want to introduce the raid on the holidays. They also said that, you know, yeah, treasure chests and rares are kind of not very exciting in BFA, and they'd like to go back to like the treasure vibe of Warlords of Draenor, when, you know, that they were like in creative places and they gave you cooler things, not just resources.
Well, are you not excited about 15 resources per chest? Is that doing it for you?
Very excited.
Yeah. But I think the, you know, they really started off the interview with the bang when they said, it's no secret that the current mood of the community is not the best, and as a fan site, we've seen negative comments about almost every aspect of the game. Why do you think it has gotten so extreme since the release of Battle for Azeroth? So I'm looking at this interview, I'm like, whoa, like, you know, that's hard hitting right off the bat. Like, you know, good job asking that.
And they actually gave an answer to that question as well, and they listed off like things. This is why it feels this way. Ah, cool.
Yeah, so they were saying that, you know, a challenge is that there's a big diversity of players, and it's just hard to balance something that will make everything happy, especially when people play the game for different reasons. And, you know, there's not a ton of WoW's this anomaly. There's not a ton of games with a similar genre that have the same audience that they can just sort of point to and be like, oh, this works or this didn't work. So they're just making it up as they go along. And they're saying it's not an excuse, but the internet in general has gotten more polarized over the years, where everything is like either extremely good or extremely bad. And, you know, communication systems lend themselves to expressing anger and negative opinions, and like maybe even, you know, clickbait, like people just want to say something's horrible, and then that gets more, you know, hype around it than just saying, okay, things are fine. but he's saying that they do realize that they made mistakes at the start of BFA and they're trying to correct a lot of them. And, they do think that they have stuff to be proud of, such as the raid. And they say, there's a lot of content in BFA still to come, which I was almost speculating was sort of the intention all along, not to have the start of the expansion be bad, but to
make it slow.
Yeah, like give something for people to play throughout the expansion and not just, front load it in that early 7081 880 patch, be like, oh, you can actually look forward to something really cool happening in 8.2 as opposed to like, oh, a new zone. So I thought he gave a reply. I've done interviews before and they don't pre-screen the questions. So I don't think Ian was prepared to answer this. I think he just was put on the spot and gave a pretty decent reply.
All right.
Yeah, I actually didn't watch this Q&A. Or is it a watching or reading?
It was a watching Q&A, but
Okay,
because it was on a German fan site, we did like a long write-up in English.
Okay.
Because there's not a lot of
That's cool.
English users that be on Vanian.
Vanian community Q&A. Okay, I might check it out actually. It sounds interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, they asked him things like, what's your favorite raid mechanic in Dazar lore? And it was cool to see Ian as like an actual human being, not just someone having to be like, oh, so like if you missed it, the reaping affix does this, and he was like, oh, I like opulence because it's like Thorum, and Mechatork has this like weird communication mechanic. So he was a little tight-lipped about 8.2 to Vanian, but he answered a lot of 8.15 stuff, and also things like, crafting gear is gets a lot of flack. Like, are you going to do anything about this? Like, treasure chests aren't very good. Oh, this was cool. He's like, we're not going to rule the Mage Tower out. They don't want it to be formulaic, but they think it was really successful, and they're not done with that type of solo challenge, which I think will make a lot of people happy.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. That was really fun.
I think that was really good mid-expansion content that got people playing a ton.
It's great, especially towards the end. And I think they might be thinking the same thing there, because if it's now, I think it might be stressful for people to, not stressful maybe, but not be able to do as much as you want to with it, because the Mage Tower towards the end of the expansion was the perfect time for me, at least personally, to start playing all my alts through them. And that catch up, or that kind of experience with wanting to do it multiple times on different characters, different specs, is only really possible in the end when your ult can get some gear a little bit easier.
I also want to take the time that Sass has sadly pointed out that the giveaway extension crashed and he lost the entries. So if you could please enter that again, that would be amazing. The giveaway is Hogris, the new pig mount. The keyword is oink. And if you have any questions that we're not answering about topics we're talking about, send them over to Sass and he will compile them for the end of this Q&A.
That's a lot of entries, though.
Could
you all stop? I really want to win.
I was just going to say I saw Nobbel entering too.
Secret plan exposed.
I mean, I crashed already once. I can't do it twice, It's too obvious.
But yeah, if you guys have any questions to us, to Nobbel, just at Sass, and he will compile them for us at the end of the show.
So, was there anything else in the Vanian Q&A we wanted to discuss, or do we want to move on to the raid race?
I think we're ready to talk about the raid race. Okay. Ooh, and I can hear myself. Testing? Okay,
Testing.
It's working.
That's good again.
I think. Yeah, that's really weird. I don't know how it works, but we need to look into that off stream sometime. Me and Perk, see what's going on.
Yeah, it didn't come up as we were like planning the notes.
No, no, it happens sometimes, and it's usually for a few seconds, and then it goes away. It's really strange.
Maybe it's a Discord only bug because we were planning on Skype and then we hopped off onto Discord.
We'll try and see what happens. We'll play around with it. But yeah, the world first race. I'm sure if you guys have been spending any time on social media following World of Warcraft, you will know that the world first race is on. There's a lot of guilds actually that are streaming it this time around compared to in the past. And Wowhead is also sponsoring Method again. just like last time. And you can see with the method streams in general that everything has been upped in production value and everything. There's a lot more casters, a lot more players, a lot more everything. And yeah, like, so stream-wise, it's going a lot better in a lot of different ways. With having the other guilds streaming as well, we've been talking about multiple guilds now. Like, people were talking about Limit, of course. NA being first gave Limit that advantage of being able to step in first, but then there's other guilds who have also stood out. Guilds like Pieces, guilds like I forgot the other one. It's called
Exorcist is streaming.
Exorcist
Wildcard
is streaming.
And Guild as well.
That's the one.
Future.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I think that's great for World of Warcraft. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, Limit and Pieces are not streaming. Limit was talking about setting up a progression blog, but their focus was on trying to get the world first, so they didn't want... I mean, it takes a lot to have to worry about production as well as, managing your raid. Mm-hmm. So they opted to focus on the, progression.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is understandable. Yeah. Limit doesn't have that much social, media people, I guess you could say, in the guild. Yeah, like they're mostly raiders, so it's gonna be very hard to monitor things like that to make sure that everything is screened properly, and they want to rather focus on the progression, which is totally understandable.
Yeah,
I was checking method just a moment ago. They're like halfway with Jaina.
Yeah,
starting up at 9 a.m.
Apparently, the rest attempt was 46%.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if we know. I'm not sure if we know percentages for the other guilds, because I know there's multiple guilds now on Jaina, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think we only know Method because I think in the middle of the show, Pieces got Blockade, and then Limit was also on Jaina.
Mm-hmm.
I know Method closed the gap a little bit because they spent a ton of time on Mechatork, but then their Blockade kill took less time to figure out than Limit, so Limit... Mm-hmm. If you lined up both guilds and you got rid of the 16-hour delay, Limit is 1 hour and 44 minutes ahead of Method at this point in getting to Jaina faster.
That's interesting.
But, I mean, it seems Method getting to phase 2 kind of consistently is obviously, it seems pretty promising. So, I was actually not sure. Seeing how fast the start of the raid hit, I was almost like, oh, should we do this show today? Like, will a guild be killing Jaina during the show? But it seems that Jaina is taking a bit longer. And then it's also funny, if the raid goes on a little too long, it's going to bump up into the American Super Bowl. And I wonder how that's going to play out, because the Super Bowl is like, everyone in America has to watch the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
At least most of them are reaching the end boss now. In Uldir race, it was Fed Devourer that kept them busy for like a week, right?
Yeah, that was really weird because it wasn't a skill thing. It just was, oh look, the boss is bugged.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
bugged?
exactly. It was just overtuned in order to bring it down.
Mm-hmm.
So at least now they're all on Jaina trying to master the Daughter of the Sea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I hope more of the top guilds stream more. It would be cool if multiple guilds were on Jaina, because it's interesting seeing Method not in the number 1 position. They actually weren't going into Gahun as well. Limit got Mithrax first. But it's interesting to see them try out new comps. Mechatork was actually interesting, even though I felt bad when they were getting tilted, because they were doing weird stuff like trying out 3 tanks, which I don't think was the best idea, but it was kind of sort of fascinating to find them working through a problem. And it's always fun to compare the kill compositions after the fact is done and seeing if someone has extreme amounts of DPS or class stacking. But for Jaina, we're pretty much in the dark. We just sort of know Method, has been trying new comps throughout the day and adjusting to the new phases. But yeah, it would be cool if more guilds would stream. It would be cool to have a split screen where you have them all on the same boss at the same time, and you have UI elements highlighting the different class discrepancies they have. I think that would be awesome. We're not quite there yet, but hopefully more guilds would be inspired by the success of the race and choose to join in.
Mm-hmm.
Because how many guilds are racing right now? I know 3 of them. Must be more, right?
Yeah, well, three are on Jaina.
You mean streaming?
No, just in general, racing to get it done first.
Yeah, there's 3 of them on Jaina. It's is it Method, Limit, and Pieces?
Method, Limit, and Pieces. There's a alpha. The Chinese guild has jumped up to number 4. They got Mechatork super quickly. So they're 7 out of 9. Exorcist is 7 out of 9, and now Wildcard Gaming is 7 out of 9. I think Wildcard wanted to end up in the top 5 because their schedule isn't as extreme as like limiter method. So they're currently number 6, so they're kind of close to their goal.
It seems like blockade is pretty difficult. Or wait, let's see, 7 out of 9, because I think quite a few guilds got up to 7, and then it was
quite
a
a
bit
few were
different.
at 6. Yeah, so there's only 6 guilds or 7 out of 9.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah, apparently Mekator, Blockade
one,
are
yes.
really difficult ones.
Yeah.
Yes.
I saw Josh had a clip where he was joking that Method didn't know one of the mechanics, and I don't know if that was a troll or not, because some of their wipes indicated that they were misinterpreting one of the mechanics, but then on the other time you're sort of like, oh yikes, like you should have read the dungeon journal. So I don't know if that was a troll or not, but I do think having the 3 tank setup didn't totally work for them, and they got it soon after they adjusted the class comp to be more traditional and in line with, I think, limit and pieces. Actually, Method was number 3 EU. Getting it, pieces even got it faster than them. They spent 2 less hours on it.
I have to admit, watching the show is really, really cool to see how the production is coming up with different casters filling up the time. It's amazing to see this race come together, especially since Uldir was the first time that they did this, right? Never before
we were happy to join up on that for the first time. We didn't really know what to expect, but we try to keep all of our guides up to date, and a lot of those graphics you see talking about like what are the important abilities to look out for, those are things the Wowhead team made and sent over to them. So we're not just like passively sponsoring, we're actively trying to include useful stuff in our roundups and do some number crunching and work on the graphics to help power the information in the race.
Cool.
And another topic which comes back into light is the question of, are we ever going to have release times at the same time for both regions, or all regions even?
I think yes. I hope so.
I think so too. And I think this World First race coming up and being so popular, having many eyes on them, will probably kind of, I guess, put a little bit of pressure on Blizzard to make it happen, because we did have it happen with the expansion release.
You'd think they could bring it together.
Yeah.
Would help with all the cinematic spoilers and the storylines as you see, but at the same time, it's also nice to have the US beta tested for you, and then you get a better product when it comes live.
I mean, yeah, but it's also not very fun to, as a EU streamer, to be like people coming into your chat like, hey, why aren't you doing the new raid? And it's like, well, I'm actually EU, so I don't have access to the new raid yet. I need to wait until tomorrow.
So, it also, I mean, with how, sort of in a meta sense, with how sponsors are trying to get involved in things like the World First race in progress, I would hate if there was a shift where people were like, well, I feel like I have to be NA because it'll be difficult for me to get, a good rank with the 16-hour handicap, and with a better rank, my group can get, better sponsors on board for this race. And you can't even normalize it. You can't even say, oh, we'll just, add up the hours, because there's so many differences. Like you could say, well, suppose Method cleared it an hour faster than Limit. It's like, well, like Limit didn't have, the advantage of seeing all the US kill comps, or like maybe Limit had a bug that was fixed by the time Method reached it. And then you could say, well, Limit got their extra 400 pieces and that wasn't on EU thanks to the Warfront ticking over. So there's a ton of variables, and I think as this gets streamed and it gets more hype, the community is realizing that there are these very weird discrepancies in the race. Like whenever I make a post on Wowhead, people are like, you shouldn't call this World First because like we don't know if Method will end up killing it faster.
Yeah.
Or
like in number of hours.
Like, yeah, like look at that eye level difference. Like Limit's item level was, I think, 3 higher than Method and Pieces on Mechatork, and everyone is like, yeah, Method could have played better, but, if they had a 1% wipe, those 3 item levels would have, come more in handy. So it would be nice if it was standardized more, so the race could be more about the skill of the people involved and the personalities and analysis, and not all this weird, like, 4-dimensional chess and who got, the right gear beforehand, or was on the right region, or which group had the, all
I kind of figured
that's not about skill.
But I kind of figured they would calculate the time, right? Like if you get it, I don't know, 24 hours in advance, then they would calculate the 24 hours in between.
No, they
But
don't.
that
No,
does not
I mean,
happen.
but like
No.
everyone is just like, I killed it first.
Yeah.
Or your average person on stream is not gonna say, oh, I'm not gonna watch the stream because I'm gonna see if like the other guild gets it first, and I'm gonna do the math, and then I'm gonna grats the other person. Everyone is just like, oh, this guild is doing a boss that nobody else is doing because EU didn't start this yet. I'm gonna go watch US versus EU. So I think, I mean, it's a lot to ask, but I think it would be interesting if this took place on a tournament realm, or maybe it was like an exhibition where a few guilds like agreed to start at a certain time and like all raced to it, and maybe there was a prize pool at the end. I mean, it can't just be on an honor system because people will always say, well, screw this, I'm just going to stream before everyone else. But I think it would be good to get more organized.
You can't convince people, I think, like with the same time, because then they're gonna go and do Mythic Pluses before that, and because it's a new week, it's a new patch.
Tournament realms, vendors, that would also solve a lot of issues with how people say they had to do extreme prep. It's like, just go in the tournament realm, buy all the gear you want, you all start at the same Heart of Azeroth level, you just focus on the skill, and you don't have to meme that you were doing islands on Christmas or anything. It just would be like a very controlled environment, like Mythic Plus and I think the arena tournament servers.
That's interesting.
I don't know about that though, because it would kind of take away the fun of prep time. Like, who is crazy enough to put in months at a time to run Rastakhan Heroic 26 times?
Like, weird community vibes though. Like, everyone is like, oh, Titan Residuum is flawed because like this streamer got all the gear funneled and now I have to do that, or just people get
But that's the fun part, ain't it? Like, they
stuff.
don't have to do that. They're not method or top 10.
People just like to latch on to complaints, or the extreme thing is suddenly then the norm, or what the fact is. Like, whenever we share Raider IO on Wowhead, people are like, oh my god, like the score, like I don't do Mythic Plus, but this means I'll just be rejected because like I'm not doing a plus 20. It's like, no, people don't care. Like, if you're doing a plus 5 or 6, but people just panic thinking that the top level prep will somehow have to apply to them, or else they won't be considered good enough for something.
And when you mentioned the whole discrepancies between the different realms and whatnot, I do believe that Blizzard mentioned when they were talking about Battle for Dazar'alor and the Horde Alliance going in from sides. From their point of view, the world's first race is something that the community invented, not something that Blizzard supports. So I don't think they're gonna do a whole lot to streamline that, right? Like, it is a community thing, it's not a Blizzard thing.
Right. I mean, they don't have to do anything, but I mean, it is a lot of free advertising for their game. It's obviously not the same output as, an MDI season that lasts for months, but, they did beat out Ninja for Uldir in terms of, that week in, I think, watch minutes or some crazy statistic. So something just to nudge it in the right direction could be useful, or maybe the community will, like I said, step up and they'll come up with different metrics for measuring it. I mean, right now, Method was like, hey, we're starting 16 hours later and we're going to call our event Race to World First. So, they're sort of buying into that old mindset that has issues. They weren't like Race to EU first. They weren't like, we're going to calculate, first kills based on how fast you did. They were just like, oh yeah, 16-hour handicap, Race to World First. So maybe perceptions will change, and then the description of the race or the rules will, change as well. But I would hate if this led to people thinking they had to go to NA in order to keep sponsors. And then, like, EU has no rating.
That's an interesting mindset. Yeah. We'll see how it's going to develop, ain't it? Like, again, it's now the second time that we see other people also join in on the whole race streaming. And to be fair, to be able to see this go down live, to see how months and months of preparation time is now coming together, is really, really cool. I really wonder who's going to win.
That's the thing as well. Like, I'm not sure if World First will feel as good if you do the. I realize that it would be a lot more fair, but in terms of that, amazing feeling that you've put so much time into it, and it's your own character, and you're going into the raid, and whenever you kill a boss, you're getting something new, hopefully, for your character. If you make it like a tournament realm, it would remove the whole RPG feel to it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. And it's like, oh, like, Sko's character always looks like this, and people want to see his character, and you get invested in the personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even just having the race unlock on all realms at the same time would be a step in the right direction. You know, one can dream. They have done it before for BFA.
Yeah.
I can just picture all the drama, like this is me speculating, but suppose Limit kills Jaina, and then like 5 hours later, Method kills Jaina. People are gonna say, oh, you know, like NA advantage, like Method cleared the raid faster, it was in that 16-hour window, like is this contested, like your item level gear was behind it, and will take away from the actual interesting
But
analysis.
that's what I thought was gonna happen. Like they just have the X amount of time to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, normally no, like people don't look at that, but of course I think it would create a discussion, because in the past NA normally doesn't really get world first, people don't care, but if
the
they
raid
do,
usually takes longer, so it sort of averages out, you know, at the end.
But if they do get a world first, I think the whole topic of Blizzard possibly changing the launching times of different patches, maybe it would become more important to try to streamline them.
Yeah, I mean, now if Method was getting world second, like, you know, days after Limit, then it's like, okay, yeah, they took longer. But if it's in that window where they cleared it faster, but it was still after Limit, then I think there's going to be this hazy, like, gray area of discussion.
Because I don't think it's a good reason. Like, well, NA doesn't get world first anyways.
Where NA was, you know, blocked on the Fetid Devourer thing, and EU wasn't blocked as long as that, so, you know, NA had to spend more time dealing with the bugs that EU didn't have to deal with. So that could have, you know, impacted Uldir in EU's favor, or, you know, balanced out the early advantage NA
which
got.
It did, right? Because I think Fetid was hotfixed for both regions at the same time, so that means that Limits basically wasted a whole day for nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Not for nothing, beta testing for the EU. That's what we got.
I guess they could have done Mythic Plus, but yeah, I mean, yeah, like I'm NA here. I'm talking to all these EU people, so.
Yeah, I do hope they can be streamlined. I'm sure they have thought about it since they made the expansion the same day. They're just like worried about changing it too much.
Well, people also mentioned that like reset day is of course on a different day, so they would have to switch that around. But you give people a heads up and they know what's coming, right?
Yeah, maybe have the raid open on, like, I don't know, a Thursday or something. Yeah. So in the middle of the week. But yeah, I mean, just also wanted to say again that, like, win or lose, I think what Method is doing is really great. How they're not just streaming, but they're also trying to make it into a really hype event with, like, serious analysis and, you know, player bios, and they're, you know, even flying top raiders out from other guilds to give their analysis on the fight. So it's not just, you know, like a hype stream. There's actual details on, like, roster compositions or you know, comparing reasons why different guilds wipe. So I think that's all really cool, and even what they did in Uldir inspired lots of other guilds, like I said, to start streaming, or I know, you know, get other sponsors. I know Big Dumb Guild is trying to do raid guides now as a result and step up their game. Limit has raid guides and a progression blog on Heroes Hearth. So people are inspired to do more community things. It's kind of like a little renaissance, because I felt the raids were dying for a bit, and now, you know, they sort of got more of a second life. People think it's maybe something they could, you know, do community stuff with, that there is interest after all in it. But yeah. So we should probably talk about some of the lore of Dazar Allure. That just actually saying it out
That's funny.
is,
Yeah. Dazar lore.
Yeah.
We can start straight away with showing you guys the opening cinematic, in case you guys haven't seen that. The opening cinematic of the raid is something that both factions can see. And then we have a secondary cinematic as well to show you guys that only the Horde has seen. Yes, the Horde got 2 cinematics. The Alliance got 1.
Gives me time for a toilet break, so I'll be right back.
Go for it. Let's see. It's like I'm introducing it, but then I don't have it ready yet. There you go, here.
Yep. Siege of Dazar'alor.
It's frozen. One sec.
Right into our nets. Go! Go!
Those ballista will be firing any second.
Continue our approach, Captain.
Aye, Lord Admiral.
Lady Proudmoore, the mission was a success. Our stealth agents are clear of the area.
Thank you, Spy Master. Hi, Tinker. Are you ready?
I'll activate our surprise just as soon as we're in range.
Now.
Steady.
Incoming!
Hi, Tinker! Calvin. No.
Look out!
Full speed ahead! Alliance! Forward!
All right, that was the first cinematic, and we'll jump straight into the second one as well. So the second one is Horde only.
Princess Talanji!
Get to the king. Now.
Father, no. Please, stay. Stay with me.
Talanji. My daughter. I'm so sorry.
Hush, Father. Shh. It's all right.
Forgive
One someday.
Yes, my queen.
What have you done to me?
Oh, he didn't tell you about our bargain? Shame on him.
Your Majesty! The Alliance dogs are escaping! What are your orders?
After them!
There it was. Let me double check that we're all unmuted. Yes, we are. We're good to go. And yeah,
All empty
you guys are
bladders
back
except for
too.
you. Hi.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll be fine. But yeah, we have both cinematics that we just played for you guys, but we can start off with talking about the first one.
The Alliance one. I already saw somebody mention it in for the side. It makes sense because the Horde never sees what the Alliance does during the
With
war
bombs.
campaign.
Yeah.
Fair point. Very fair point.
It's a very good point. I guess they just assume like, well, you know, gnomes, they've got things up their sleeves. You know, they can
They
make
just
things
push
happen.
the button.
Yeah.
Just explode everything. And
Yep.
there was another part about Shaw mentioning like the spies left the harbor. And I first thought that the war campaigns were closer together. Like they did not plan to have us wait 6 months for it all, for the whole raid to open up. But then in the quest dialogue, I believe when you turn it in, it actually mentions like Kashan and Kelsey were checking the bombs, so those are the ones that he's talking about.
Yeah, they didn't. Horde did not do a very good job of patrolling for these bombs that apparently just sat there for months.
We're lucky that the ships are staying in the harbor for all this time. Like, for all we know, there are like different ships come in. It's like, yeah, the place is done.
It's like, no, we destroyed the wrong ships, guys. This isn't the ones.
Whoops. Yeah. And I also had a couple of people ask, like, what's with Jaina? Why can she only, like, shield herself against one thing when previously could, like, carry a ship in the sky? But that's, you know, power levels of Warcraft are always BS. It all depends on what the story requires. And in this case, the story required some drama. Mechatork, you know,
it'd be too easy.
He's the only one with the button to make it detonate. What kind of a dumbass plan is that?
I love how it's a big red button.
They could have just like frost nobed it in place so it didn't tip over. It just
or give more detonators to people, like not just one big ass on the boat.
They're all up. And they're all up in the ship, but like they just like stick Megatork out there, unprotected.
Big target shoot.
Yeah, he's like in front of everyone. And the one big ship that sticks out.
Yep, like
poor
the first
Mechatork.
one as well, like drama. Yep.
I thought maybe that the reason why Jaina couldn't protect everyone was that we usually see her acting at range. But this was very close to her, and maybe it's trying to be the fantasy of, you know, like the strong sorcerer at range, but then close up, they're more frail. So, you know, the threat was like right above her head, so that takes more effort than, I don't know, flying a ship and bombing a city, you know, miles.
Yeah, but at the same time, she could have just teleported the device and exploded and then sent the fleet in. Like, magic. It's difficult to make some sort of conflict when you have magic in the story where people can literally teleport wherever they want.
Yeah, it's
so
the best move ever.
Yeah.
I did like the exchange with her brother. How like he's still like it's his thing now to look messy.
Like no shirt. No undershirt.
Give the guy a break. He just came out of the RPG. He still needs to get a new outfit and a haircut. All right, he hasn't found a barber yet.
His character model after Borealis is all like buttoned up. But now in the cinematic, he like lost his shirt again. I like that it was cute how they're calling each other by their formal names, even though, you know, they're brother and sister. And there's some other exchanges where they're sort of teasing each other, but now they're all like, you know, Captain and Lord Admiral. So
it's like more serious.
As we learned from the Warcraft movie, as soon as they start using family titles, that means they die. You remember that scene with like the son of Lofar? It's like, Dad, it's like, oh, you're gonna die. You're gonna die.
But yeah, I mean, we've mentioned Mechatork. He finally has his awesome, you know, moment to shine.
Moment of glory. I just realized he could have been inside the ship the whole time.
Yeah.
Instead of falling in, he could have just been there.
He could have been at the front of the ship, but underground, so he didn't have to worry about being blown off the dock.
There are a million and one scenarios that this could have been done better.
I don't know if we have a picture of this, but I did think it was nice when Jaina put her hood up, because that's the parallel to Daughter of the Sea in Warbringers when she pulls the hood up at the end there, and then it's like, oh, beware of me. And it's finally come full circle because, you know, she was ostracized by her people. She was all alone in Warbringers Jaina. And now when she does that same action, it's, you know, she's beloved by her people. She's the Lord Admiral, and she's fulfilling the goal she set out, which was to, you know, strike against the Horde on behalf of protecting.
I just thought of something. How cool would it have been if all the ships were like singing her song as like this battle cry with drums going on, like beware the Daughter of the Sea, and then the fleet comes in.
Okay,
that'd be so cool.
Really sorry to the stream. I accidentally played the cinematic in the background. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize, because I can't hear the cinematic myself. I only realized because people commented. Okay, so my bad. I'm sorry, Perk. I think you may want to talk about Jaina again as I show the pictures.
So Jaina, the action of Jaina pulling the hood over her head, that's the echoes what happened at the end of Warbringers Jaina, and it's really come full circle because in that cinematic, she's ostracized by her people, she's by herself, and she makes this promise that, you know, she'll protect them, and she's trying to reconcile. And then we have the whole BFA story where it doesn't work out so well, but then finally she, you know, is the Lord Admiral of Kulturas. She's beloved by her people. She's taking the ship to go strike down the Horde in Zandalari like she wanted to. She's protecting them. So it's a nice, action that her story, has seen some growth, and she set out what she wanted to do all along since the start of BFA. But there is some foreshadowing. Like we said, there are some plot holes, and even though some characters look like badasses, when the more you think about it, there are a lot of flaws with the Alliance plan. Like, Mechatork is the only one that knows about explosives, and without him, they're kind of out of luck, and no one else has that technology, wizardry. And Jaina is, I'm a badass, I can take on everything. And we sort of saw with Jaina versus the whole like Zandalari Navy and Army forces, that was kind of a little too much for her to take on. She's a powerful mage, but there's only, one mage versus 1,000 people throwing spears at you is probably too much.
Like when you turn around, hi myself.
Ooh.
That's better. While you turn around, when you get to the harbor, like if you immediately turn around, you can see like this massive arcane shield covering the ships. Kind of wonder like why didn't we fly in with them? But whatever.
Right.
Drama.
It's also like you have to wonder if the pride is getting in the way, because if the goal was to weaken the Navy, yay, we did that. Let's turn around and go home. And then it's like, was this, hubris being like, no, we have to like go into the city and like make them pay. And it's like, you could have just...
I don't think that was their goal though. Like the weakening the Navy was definitely a good part of it, but they also went in with the intention of creating a wedge between the Zandalari and the Horde, because they know like the Zandalari.
Really, like they could have already done that by saying, oh, you don't have your Navy, and the Horde only wanted the Zandalari for their Navy, and now they don't have it, so the Horde, will lose interest in them.
Well, you could blow up a couple of ships, or you actually get the Zandalari to surrender. Now, you could argue that the Alliance could have done that by, negotiating and whatnot. But we had Sylvanas shut down negotiations with the Horde at the start. And we were talking about this on Discord as well the other day. They never really explained the whole Talanji and Zul ending up in prison in the stockades. We know that it was Talanji that sought out the Horde.
Right.
We know that somewhere along the way she was picked up by the Alliance and tossed in jail, but we don't know how the Alliance figured it out. We don't know why the Alliance would just imprison the Princess of the Zandalari instead of negotiate with her. Like anyone, like Anduin would be on board to get the Zandalari to the Alliance side.
Because we worked with them in Zul'Gurub, they were chill with both the Alliance and the Horde.
And then why was Talanji traveling with Zul? Like, why was he there? And there's a gap at the beginning of the story, and even at the start of the expansion, I was already hoping, like, will we get a short story? Will we get an explanation for this?
Yeah.
But we didn't, so it kind of drives a wedge between the storyline that we see now. Like, if they really wanted Rastakhan to surrender, then why did you not talk to Talanji at the start? Why immediately go the hostile way? Why immediately imprison her?
Yeah, why didn't they already use Talanji as a bargaining chip to negotiate with the Zandalari? Like, we'll return your daughter if you give us your ships or something. And it's weird how they assumed that Rastakhan would want to surrender. If it's like, okay, so we imprisoned your daughter, blew up your navy, and invaded your city, but yeah, you'll totally be open to surrender.
At least they try. But I think that's kind of the problem with just the Alliance. They can't just be hostile. They need to have the moral high ground in Blizzard storytelling and try to negotiate, even though it's BS.
Yep.
So
that's always like
it's always the
Alliance,
case. Like, why can't the Alliance be the bad guy for once?
I would actually enjoy seeing like one case where Alliance is bad.
I had such high hopes for the start of the expansion, for the Alliance to start the war rather than the Horde.
Maybe
but then it's like, Teldrassil got burned, so no matter what the Alliance do, they...
That's the thing, like, that's so bad. Like, Teldrassil burned. Like, how can Alliance get worse than that?
But if the burning of Teldrassil was in retaliation to what the Alliance did to the Undercity, it would be a completely different storyline.
Right, but then it's like the Alliance did... Like, what did the Alliance do to the Undercity?
That's the thing as well, it's self-destroyed.
Like, if the Alliance... Well, okay, but still the Alliance would have assaulted the Undercity. Like, they would have instigated the war.
But it's like, Sylvanas was the one that she destroyed 2 zones.
She destroyed 2 cities.
Okay. This be true. This be very true. But still, it would have been... If just the Alliance would have been the one to be the aggressor for a change, it would have been...
I think that would be cool
so much better.
Do you think we will see that with Anduin in power?
Well, it kind of depends. Like, we do have the whispers of the Boy King offer free lies, but if you do go with the idea of he is lying out of what he does not know, or his naivete, then the whole twist of Anduin being the bad guy, I don't see it happen. Like, Anduin is Chrissy Golden's golden boy. he does not seem to be the type of person that goes around and just flips the script and be like, haha, it was me all along.
Maybe he'll remain the same, but the other leaders will be like, okay, we're tired of Anduin always like going for peace, and he's not helping us in Darkshore, and like he's doesn't know how war works. We're taking it into our own hands.
Yeah, we know already Saranda wasn't very happy.
Yeah, there's also the whispers hinting that like something's going to happen to Ilaria. You know, they're talking about, when the arrow finds the mark, like she'll like fall into the void, and that could be like, you know, Arator, her, you know, anchor of sanity.
Like in her third death, she ushers in our coming. That's the whisper we're talking about, right?
No, there was a recent 815 whisper that was talking about when the arrow meets her heart, the last fetter will be removed, and fetter's the same word that the Void Elves use, talking about, like, I don't know, being tethered to reality. Let me see if I can find the exact whisper. One sec.
Well, if that's the case, then Sylvanas doesn't have that many Valkyrie left, right?
She has 2 left. No one's made a point of that in season 2 because we haven't seen Tyrande, so we don't know if the Alliance is aware that Sylvanas is like losing her lifelines.
I would like to use my lifeline, please.
So Ilaria, when the arrow finds its mark, the last fetter will fall away. So between the image, you know, of the Windrunner sisters with arrows and Ilaria talking about like how she's like struggling to have her sanity, and she's like, you know, almost losing it with the void, it could refer to something bad happening to her.
Could definitely make sense. Like she was talking about.
Yeah, she said she saw Arator calling an army of paladins to hunt her down, only to fall with her arrows in his throat. She saw herself kneeling before the one who slumbers beneath Azeroth's waves. So that doesn't sound good.
And she also mentioned in front of Stormwind or dialogue where she feels like she died twice, I believe.
Yeah.
So that could definitely make sense. But then again, even with Sylvanas, like if we go with the idea that the Valkyrie are her tethers to mortal life, and she would be completely unhinged if she dies in relation to other whispers, because the rest of the whispers with N'Zoth and all that do seem to relate to Sylvanas, right?
Right, but this one, Magister Umbric does say when he struggles with the void, he says, I struggle to fetter the whispers, same as you. Thankfully, Ilaria offers her guidance. So, it seems like fetter, if it's used in both situations to refer to struggling with the whispers of the void, that I think refers to Ilaria there.
Interesting. Which could then correlate to Sylvanas sacrificing herself for her sister, as we see in the comic that she still has emotions for her sisters in the sense of, okay, I'm not going to kill you right now.
Right.
Which in Sylvanas terms is like, I love you.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, so the second cinematic, since we're already talking about, you know, death, so the Rastakhan cinematic obviously has a lot of throwbacks, visual throwbacks as well as dialogue throwbacks to the Bwonsamdi's deal cinematic that Rastakhan, you know, forms with him in order to hopefully, you know, gain recontrol the Zandalari Empire. There's a lot of similarities in the language used, in the visual shots. Some of them are nearly identical side to side. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but what I found interesting is that Bwonsamdi seems more respectful to Talanji, and their body language and placement sort of puts Talanji more in a position of power, while with Rastakhan, Bwonsamdi is always like towering over him and kind of like shaking his finger or making Rastakhan look kind of like small or childish or whiny, or he's, you know, Rastakhan's flying above, Bwonsamdi's flying above Rastakhan, but with Talanji, she's like very like strong and regal, and Bwonsamdi is bowing down to her, so it feels that their dynamic is probably different than like Rastakhan being really petulant and being like, Bwonsamdi, help me again, or else you'll be nothing, like sort of getting on his nerves.
I think that also has to do with how they portrayed Rastakhan, to be honest, which in my opinion has been a bit of a waste. Like Rastakhan's role in Battle for Azeroth has to been make Talanji look good. That's it. So that might be in relation to that, as well as he does still point at the door, like, are you got to take that? Like, are you sure you don't want to deal with that right now instead of me? Like our little bargain that we got going on.
Yeah.
And in the case of Bonsandi, like he's a trickster, right? He likes the fire in the belly, that pretty daughter of yours. Maybe she will do better. I do really wonder what his end goal is going to be, though. Like the whole deal that he made with Rastakhan and with Talungi.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a goal behind it, or is it just like, oh yeah, I got myself a nice little deal going on here?
Well, I mean, I think he likes the war to a certain extent because he gets more souls. And in the follow-up it's not cinematic, questline with Vol'jin, he's like, I don't like Sylvanas, she's sort of disrupting the balance. And, oh, I don't like these other, gods of death because they sort of compete with me. So obviously, if there's a war, he's going to get all these souls. And he also doesn't like how he lost a soul and Vol'jin was gone, and we learn in 815 that when Talungi is going to be made queen, she has to pass a trial with everyone, and Bronsambi's like, hey, like, we can call off the deal if you just bring me like the soul of Sylvanas, like, I won't bother you anymore, we don't have to be tied to the Loa of Death, if you kill the war chief, we're good, I won't bother you.
Which then makes you wonder if Sylvanas was indeed the soul that he lost, and if it is, why does his boss care so much about the soul Sylvanas? Because that's what he was worried about, right? Yeah. Like, I haven't lost a soul ever since ... and the boss man's not gonna like it.
And that reminds me, is like going back to Edge of Night, is it like, Sylvanas died, she committed suicide, and then she was presented with this horrible world of torment and decided to take the pact of the Valkyr and come back to life. So is that the lost soul Bonsandi is referring to, that he couldn't, snatch her or keep her in that, realm of death?
Exactly. And in the case of Vol'jin, apparently there's somebody who's been whispering in his ear to make Sylvanas the war chief, and somebody who brought him back, two different entities in what they think is going on.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes you wonder, like, who would want Sylvanas as the war chief? Well, if old gods truly really like the war, then old gods would definitely be a step in the right direction. But then who would bring Vol'jin back? Would that also be Bonsamdi's boss man?
Or are they conflicting forces? Like, is were the old gods like, okay, Vol'jin put Sylvanas in charge, and then was some Loa involved, or some more benevolent spirit involved in bringing Vol'jin back? Was Azeroth involved in bringing Vol'jin back, being like, oh, emergency, we have to bring back some smart, reasonable characters.
And they call it like the touch of valor as well. But what I do really appreciate is that they seem to be opening up new storylines in the sense of Warcraft, because in the past most storylines were drawn back to either the Titans, the Old Gods, or the Burning Legion. Yeah. But as time goes on, we're closing more and more chapters, right? And it seems like they're building up to something behind death, and that could open the idea. They seem to be building up behind the light, that having more of an influence with the whole alternate reality. Mm-hmm. If you go by the chart that they have in the Chronicles with like nature, life, necromancy, and all that stuff, that could open up a whole bunch of different story arcs and different forces to deal with, which I find really, really cool.
Yeah, going back to the whispers, one of the 815 whispers is 6 seats at the high table, 6 mouths that hunger, 1 will consume all others. So you're like, oh, does that refer to one force that's going to try to disrupt things? Is the void trying to disrupt things, or is the light trying to consume everything? Is some other force going to turn, more sinister as time goes on? Maybe all the forces will, I don't know, start fighting with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So are there? I don't know the cosmic chart out of my head. Are there like 6 of them?
Yeah, and then like Undeath is the wild card, but the forces are Void and Light, Life and Death, Order and Chaos.
Cool. Oh, that would be nice. Yeah, I also heard people speculate about it being with the Pantheon and all that.
Yeah.
But I don't know about that one.
Yeah, I don't think so, because there's 7 of them, and then Sargeras turned on the remaining 6. So it would make more sense if the numbers aligned, but I don't think that like A&R is going to turn on Agrimar or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could, but they're just sort of locked away in a star right now.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Not to mention we just dealt with the whole Titan storyline, so...
Yeah. But going back to Rastakhan, I almost wonder if Rastakhan kind of doesn't treat Bonsandi well, and I kind of wonder if he was hoping, as the raid went on that he wanted to get Rastakhan out of the way and that Talanji would be better for the Zandalari. And there are a lot of lines where Bronsamdi offers his assistance, but it's not a reassurance that Rastakhan would survive, it's that the Empire would survive. And you know, at one point when it's like, be careful what you wish for, because Rastakhan is like, okay, like, you know, why aren't they dead yet? I need power. Give me power. And then Rastakhan's like, oh no, it's too much to control. So you sort of wonder if Bronsamdi was like, okay, you know, the boy who cried wolf, you know, you asked too many times, you know, take this power, you can't handle it, out of the way. You know, Talanji would handle this better. I'm not being treated like an equal here. So yeah, it's just interesting to wonder if Bronsamdi just like was okay with Rastakhan losing the battle.
Well, that's the arrogance of the king, ain't it? And Bronsamdi has been lusting for Rastakhan's soul for quite a while. Like, he did not care about the king. He cared about the little bargain that he offered. And in case of Bronsamdi, have the Empire thriving, people, you know, worshipping him as the Loa of Death connected to the royal bloodline. Yeah, that's good stuff for him. He doesn't care if it's Rastakhan or Talanji or whoever, as long as, you know, the Empire goes on.
He almost seemed pleased. Like with
there are some lines though where Bronsamdi is saying, or Vol'jin says that like Bronsamdi views Talanji highly, so he doesn't view her as, you know, as dispensable as Rastakhan. He seems to have some respect for her.
Yeah, same in Nusmir, where he's like, oh, you have a little bit of a fire in your belly, I like you, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah, definitely. And according to Vol'jin, Talanji's voice is also really, really powerful, even in the way he's hanging out. So her connection to the Loa is strong, and you know, compared to her father, who's been chilling with her son for 200 years and just staying alive and being fooled all around him, while his daughter could see what was actually going on. Like, it's the arrogance of a king, ain't it?
Yeah, like, going back to the old Vol'jin quest lines, Vol'jin is like, you know, you brought the champions to the shores against your father's will, you learned about Gahun when no one else was caring, you set the plan in motion to save your people, you know, you're the leader they can love and trust. And at this point, Vol'jin is like giving her a pep talk, even though her father is still alive. So in Vol'jin's mind, he's viewing Talanji as the future of the Zandalari, not Rastakhan. So, actually, do you guys want to talk about the Vol'jin achievement next and then go back to Genin Rastakhan, or keep going in order with the notes?
I think it kind of does make sense, to be honest. I think I think we should move on to the Vol'jin part there.
Yeah. So there is a Horde players. Nobbel, you were asking me about this last week, and because I didn't know the answer, I was like, oh, I should actually make a post on this. Horde players that complete do a bunch of things, including the whole war campaign, Exalted with the Zandalari Empire, defeat Jaina in the raid if you have the quest, and do the previous Vol'jin Uldir questline, get a special Battle of Dazar'alor Vol'jin appearance questline. And in this questline, we react to Sylvanas' shocking decision to raise Derek Proudmoore, and you help Bane and Talanji call upon Vol'jin to investigate who was the whisper that proclaimed Sylvanas war chief on his deathbed and who brought him back. And we don't have any answers, but we have more questions, which is sort of an answer in its own right, that it's not some very, you know, there's some foul, interesting play going on here. And they go through to Bronsamdi, they go to the Lich King, and they go to Aiur. None of them seem to know. Aiur was like, well, Vol'jin, you must have been touched by greatness. And Bronsamdi and the Lich King say, we don't want Sylvanas in charge. We hate her. She, you know, messes with our whole, you know, operation of death. She disrupts balance. So, yeah, interesting quest line. I wonder if this will continue after every raid we get a little more of Vol'jin. But yeah, a lot of questions that we don't know the answers to.
And they also mentioned that Vol'jin has become something greater now than what he was, regardless of who or what is responsible. Apparently he's now even more powerful. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, you have been touched by the hand of valor. Such a noble force does not scheme for mortal thrones. And Vol'jin goes, so whoever whispered to me is not the same who sent me back. And then Aiur's like, oh, well, actually, I don't really like Bronsamdi, so go away and stop talking.
I was surprised we didn't go to Helya, by the way, in Helheim. You'd imagine that would be one of her stops to check out.
Yeah, I wonder. That's a good point because Sylvanas was trying to. That was the first collaboration we did about Odin and Helya, and maybe how Odin mistreated Helya, and what was the actual deal with Sylvanas and Helya that was not really developed in Legion.
Correct, yeah. And they did mention that maybe it might will make a return. And for those that missed it out in Legion, Sylvanas going to Stormheim, and she was going with the idea of enslaving Aegir, and Aegir has the power to create more Valkyr. Valkyr are the things that keep her out of hell, as well as allow her to raise more Forsaken and empower them as she's done with the Vanos.
Yep.
For this, she got like a lantern. She went to Aegir and she was like, "You're mine now." But in order to get the lantern, she had to make a deal with Helya, the queen of Helheim.
Mm-hmm.
But that whole deal never came to be. And
Right.
I'm pretty certain that they had a storyline going on or planned to do in Legion with the whole conflict, but that never made it in. All we really did was take towers from each other. So the deal was never explained. And before we knew it, we kicked Helya's booty in the Trial of Valor raid. And before we knew it, in Battle for Azeroth, we suddenly got the news like, oh yeah, Helya's back. What, you thought she was going to die? No. She's back. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so that's it sets again, like we were saying before, even though some stories with Legion were closed, a lot of Battle for Azeroth is opening all these stories up, focused around death, and not just the cinematics, but this follow-up story is talking about different rulers in the sphere of death. And it's sort of funny hearing about the petty squabbles, how like one somebody kind of uses the others as competition. He's like, I have many rivals when it comes to claiming souls. Like, I don't know, they're all like fighting over each other to be like the number one soul collector.
Yeah, they get together for poker games to decide who gets the many souls home this week, and then next week to do it again.
Yeah, but somebody's like, you can ask the Lich King if he's treading on my ground. It's like, oh, that's a very casual way of referring to the Lich King.
Which does make you wonder, like, who gets claim over what, and how exactly do they decide, like, who gets to go to Helheim, the Halls of Valor, Bonsomdi? Because Bonsomdi's realm does not end with the trolls. He's dealt with humans, apparently he knows about Bane's father, so who exactly gets what?
Yeah, it's also, the Lich King also has the potential for a future story because Talia is now the daughter of, Bolvar Fordragon, who was then tortured and took up the mantle of the Lich King after, the defeat of Arthas as the Lich King.
That's still another story path, probably.
Yep.
For us soon to discover.
Yeah, and then we also know that there's more with Aiur because Talanji says, somebody warned me that Aiur will likely not be pleased with my presence. Apparently, she and Bonsomdi have a past the Loa were unwilling to discuss. So you have to wonder what went on there if they now hate each other but have the same domain. And what was that pact? Like, are they serving the same boss? Did one have to do something the other was really opposed to? So we don't know what's going on with that either.
Pretty good stuff. And I want my Rin 4 dragon babies in the future. The bloodline must continue.
I also want to mention, in case you guys aren't sure about this whole quest with Vol'jin, it is live right now in-game for Horde. It's not something for 8.15. It's currently available. So if you have done the different requirements, what was it exactly? Clearing the raid, doing the past Vol'jin quests, and all war campaigns. Oh, and Exalted with Zandalari, then you should have access to this quest line. So it's available right now, in case you didn't know.
Yeah. There's also been discussion about Alliance versus Horde quests. It's true that the Horde has gotten the 2 Vol'jin quests as well as Sourfang, but the Alliance, got the special Night Warrior quest that gave them the eye customization, and then they also had the unique Jaina quest line with all those extra cinematics at the start of BFA. So obviously, you wouldn't want the expansion to complete and have the Horde have a lot more quest lines, but I think right now it's fairly balanced, and adding some here and there as it makes sense for the character is better than, trying to shoehorn a random like Alliance quest line where it doesn't make sense now.
I see a little discussion in the chat, so I just wanted to comment it. People are talking about why are we killing Jaina as Alliance, and just a quick TLDR of how the raid works. Alliance is fighting 6 bosses. Horde is fighting 6 bosses. as their own factions. And then what happens is after the Alliance has fought the 6 bosses, they go through talking to an NPC and they get the story told of what the Horde has done. And that's when you go back basically to the Horde version, killing the 3 Alliance bosses. So you turn into Horde and you kill the Horde bosses. So that's how it works, and the other way around for the Horde as well. They go into a story told by an NPC and then they become the Alliance for 3 bosses. So that's how it works.
Which is a great lead into our next story topic, which was how when you go to the flashback, you actually have an unreliable narrator, so it's not the dialogue the other faction sees. Before you engage Rastakhan and Greymane have a dialogue, and it changes. So the Alliance have one version, and then the Horde, who are having the story retold to them in flashback, get a version that makes Greymane look a lot more sinister, which I think is pretty interesting. So I don't know if you want to get them side by side up on the screen. But the Alliance dialogue shows that while the idea of Zendalari surrendering didn't make a ton of sense, at least Gen is just like, on behalf of the Alliance, in the name of King Edwin Rin, I request your surrender. While in the Horde retelling, he says, I order you to submit. You will bow before your new master, Edwin, and you will deliver your daughter to us as a hostage. And you're like, oh, wow, he looks pretty evil here. Why is he acting like this? And then you're like, oh, no, he's actually not. It's just, when the Horde scout is telling us about this, he obviously views the Alliance as evil. They just killed his king. So they're going to try to make, Rastakhan look more heroic and not as stubborn and prideful in his dialogue.
And I imagine the same happens between the Alliance and Horde retelling of the Jaina fight, right? Because I remember on the Alliance side, there's like this called Tyrann who mentions that Jaina was as valorous as she could be, and she gave the Horde every opportunity to surrender. Yeah. I imagine that the Horde does not hear the dialogue. The Horde just hears like, okay, you can retreat now or face me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the same, but because the RP was really buggy the first week and didn't show up, so I think I need to gather more data to actually see it. It was weird, like we just saw this the second week, and everyone was like, "Oh, actually, the Alliance got something new," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, this totally changes my analysis."
Okay, because these texts weren't available last week, right?
They were buggy, like it didn't show up. Squishy.
Well, not last week, but yeah.
Yeah. It was not consistent last week, I believe.
No. Yeah, the whole Greymane telling Rastakhan from you can surrender and whatnot, that did not happen during the first run. Happened last week, though.
But yeah, so it's interesting how this also ties into the lore Q&A, how they brought up the concept of unreliable narrators, and that's cool how now we're actually seeing it in Dazar Allure. And it'll be interesting to see if it's used more in the future. We've seen different raid dialogue before, like Varamathras having different Alliance and Horde opening messages, but nothing implying that one faction is misperceiving the event. Like even the death of Sourfang and Icecrown Citadel, Horde got more of a burial and mourning, but it wasn't, the Alliance and Horde having different dialogue, perceiving it happening differently. It just was different, perspectives of the same encounter.
Was it though?
I thought just
because on the Horde side with the Sourfang Icecrown, you just see Sourfang pick up his son and he goes. Whereas the Alliance side has Varian and Jaina show up, and Varian basically gives him permission to go, and he's like, "Oh, cool. Thank you, Your Highness. I will not forget Your Kindness." And then
I thought the Horde RP was super long, but maybe I'm misremembering. But I thought there was a meme that like the Horde had 2 minutes of RP dialogue with Sourfang. I could be misremembering it though. That would be.
I don't remember exactly either.
Yeah.
I've been there too many times.
My cat is like.
But anyways, yeah, we're actually here and. Sorry.
No, my cat keeps coming over. I think she wants something, but I'm not sure what. She keeps meowing.
It's a cat.
Yeah.
Yay, cat.
But I gave her food right before, so she should be fine. Maybe she just wants to play.
When I stood up before during the cinematic, Bright Paw was in the other room and he just was staring at me. So I don't know if he'll come back, but he
Aw.
definitely made his mark eating my headset.
No. I still can't believe he was so fast with biting it off.
That was just that was special.
Yep. Like
I
at
feel
first,
bad. I want to be like, oh yeah, check out my new headset. Totally bad if you're the cat.
I'm sorry, it's been bit off, you know. I've got a bright pot in the house.
But yeah, so I think for our last Azarlore topic, over the weekend, Nobbel and I did a collaboration on the whole story, outlining the Alliance perspective and the Horde perspective. And then I did a separate article sort of examining more of the motives as to what was going on. Like, why were we fighting? Did this actually change anything? Maybe the Alliance won in the short term, but they don't really have a plan for Sylvanas in the long term. And this actually made the Horde join the Zandalari, not, abandon the Zandalari. So, yeah, it might just be good to discuss the Alliance's plan a bit, and if it made, sense, and, was it reasonable to expect Rastakhan to surrender after everything? And, I had a theory. I think everyone sort of does at this point, that the old gods want us all to be fighting because then we can be weakened and more vulnerable. So maybe the old gods are happy that it was, a stalemate and the Alliance didn't gain territory, and the Zandalari lost a lot, but they'll join the Horde and strengthen them, etc. But yeah, I just think that the Alliance's plan is just really iffy. And the dialogue
what would have been the better solution for the Alliance then? Like, what should they have done?
Well, I think they should have just blown up the Navy and gone away, because Anduin just sounds so surprised, like, oh, I think the death of Rastakhan will ignite a fire in the hearts of the Zandalari. We may have strengthened their bonds. And it's like, this seems like something you should have, I don't know, discussed prior to, barging into the city. If you seem concerned that it could have, really backfired on you.
Yeah, but the same can be said about Sylvanas, though, as she planned to kill Malfurion. Like, did you really expect the Alliance to surrender after that?
Right, but that wasn't her. When Malfurion was spared, she was like, well, I'm going to burn down Teldrassil to, I don't know, like...
To inflict the wounds that his death was supposed to inflict. Yeah. Her original plan was to kill Malfurion because she thought that would weaken the whole Night Elf. Not to mention that the Night Elves have another leader.
But she also wanted to take over the city. She wanted to...
Occupy the city, correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas the Alliance was more like a hit and run. While at the same time also take control of more of the outposts, the surrounding territories and whatnot. So basically weaken the Horde, take more land, and get ready for the final phase of the war.
Yeah. It just seemed like they could have had better planning leading up to it. It seems that, again, in Jaina, we're very much like, okay, surrender. Okay, you didn't surrender. I guess that's it. But Anduin just seemed like, oh, why don't we just think of this loophole and that loophole? And it feels like there's a communication breakdown between Anduin, who's very peaceful, and the more seasoned military leaders who are actually in Azarlore.
Like his father said, if you wanted peace, you must be willing to fight for it, right?
Right.
And that's something Anduin also realizes after the whole events with Before the Storm, where he sees like Sylvanas is just, it can't happen.
Yeah.
And again, I really think that line of making Rastakhan surrender, I really think that was just tossed in there to make the Alliance look better, rather than that was actually their plan. But that's just a personal feeling.
I also feel that, they don't really have a plan for dealing with Sylvanas. And if they're like, oh yeah, we're going to win this war, just reminds me of Lordaeron, where they went into the throne room and, Anduin is all like, oh, we're going to win. Sylvanas, graciously accept defeat. And she's like, no, I guess I'm going to blow everything up with plague. Like, she's not playing by the rules. And it's like, well, what's your plan to deal with Sylvanas, Anduin? Like, for all Anduin knows, she still has Valkyr to res her. And he doesn't really think about, I don't know, the implications of that.
Forgetting that the Forsaken use Blight, gas mask would have been handy. Just saying.
He just thinks that everyone's playing by the rules and they're not. And they're like, oh, our Navy's better now, and it's like, yeah, but she can just blight everyone or res with a Valkyr, and she's still rezzing people in Darkshore. She's rezzing Night Elves. Like, you could be res, Anduin as a Forsaken.
Yep.
Like, you should think about this.
Which makes you wonder why she didn't res all those Alliance troops that we sacrificed in Nusmir. Like, that would have been one hell of an army to make a return in Zandala.
She wasn't. Oh yeah, after the fight. Like, oh yeah.
There's like a whole graveyard over there now, like a mini army.
Oh, and then you have like Zombie's army of skeletons versus her army of skeletons.
Oh god.
Yeah, like face off there.
The War of the Skeletons.
But yeah, I think that N'Zoth is very happy with all
Oh
this.
yeah, for sure. It's like, I don't even have to do anything, I'll just watch him.
Yeah, especially if the naval battle ended up taking place between both continents, because I'm sure all those, drowned souls are feeding him, especially if, the boats had Azerite on them, or some people had Azerite next, so I'm sure he just loves, sucking up all this Azerite power that we're just, floating down to him.
Like a goldfish, yeah? Like just waiting to be fed with a little... Yeah, okay. I got the image in my head now. It's getting late, so it's all getting a little bit loopy up in here. It's beautiful.
Well, we should plug your video before you move on.
I was just about to say that because I was copying it. I was like, to wrap up this topic, I think the best way to do so is probably by linking this YouTube video by Nobbel in collaboration with Wowhead, where all of this and more is discussed.
Yeah. So also last call for the giveaway. The prize is the hog mount, and the keyword is oink. And
in
also,
the chat.
Yeah. And if you have any questions about what we're talking about, you can send them to Sass, and we'll try answering a few of them at the end of the show if Nobbel doesn't fall asleep first.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm here. I'm sitting here.
Kind of here. But yeah, the next topic that we have is an in-game one. Lunar Festival is here, and the first thing that we noticed was there's a bunch of new toys to collect.
The Hearthstone is so cool.
I know.
You go like praise the sun. It's beautiful.
I was telling Perk, I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna start using this immediately. And you know what? I'm gonna quickly show you guys also how it looks like, because you do not want to miss this. So right here. Wait for it. Wait for it. Boom! It looks amazing. Like I'm so happy. It's awesome. We had the Hearthstone, the new Hearthstone for the Winter Veil as well, and now we have this one. It looks like it might be a trend with seeing it with more holidays.
So more on the way.
Mm-hmm.
Almost makes it worth it to fly around the world and get those coins of ancestry. Almost.
Yeah. So speaking of coins of ancestry, with the 7 new toys, you have to spend, I believe, 150 coins total to get all 7 of them. You can only get like 84 per character, so you'll have to do it on a few characters if you want to get everything. The other toys are a green dragon costume and blue dragon costume, just like the red one we got in 2017.
Do you know, by the way, when they do the fireworks for the festival? I was actually working on the story of the Lunar Festival, and I wanted to record the fireworks, but I could not find them. Is it only on the final day? Is it only on New Year's Day? Or is it... Because in the description it says every hour after sunset. I could not find the fireworks.
Oh, but this is for New Year's, not Lunar Festival. I thought that for the fireworks on New Year's, it was only in the evening. It wasn't, the full day, and it started in Booty Bay, I thought.
But during the Lunar Festival, they do fireworks as well, right?
I didn't know. You can fire them off yourself, but they don't do them. You can buy the fireworks, and you can shoot them off at firework clusters.
Are you telling me there's no show at all?
No, there's no show.
Oh, feels bad.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Nobbel. Also, when you're farming the coins, you may want to keep in mind that there might be a lot of phased zones. So if that's the case, don't forget to speak to Zadormi to get to the correct phase so you can talk to the NPCs and get your coins.
And yeah, like while it is nice that the holidays are getting some cosmetic updates, I feel like there's a missed opportunity for the holidays to have lore updates. So like the Lunar Festival, after all the things the Night Elves have gone through, and how Teldrassil, was a big place that was decorated for the Lunar Festival, it would have been a really good time to add some quest, reflecting the post-BFA situation or heritage of the Night Elves, kind of similar to how for Hollow's End, it would have been cool to expand upon the Forsaken lore, with the destruction of the Undercity. But, especially, it's like, oh, Darkshore and Teldrassil are both gone, but there's so many elders there. So I feel that with the increased emphasis on storytelling in BFA, it would be interesting to, I don't know,
Definitely.
expand
Just to
upon
see
it
more
in
of
a
it.
quest
Mhm.
way.
I mean, more story is always nice, but when it comes to the Lunar Festival, it's not directly connected to the Night Elves, though. So why would the Lunar Festival be Teldrassil questing?
Well, it is in Moonglade, and a lot of the elders are night elves, and a lot of the vendors are night elves that, sell things for coins of ancestry.
Yeah, okay.
And I
That's
think,
fine.
like, for Wintervale, Teldrassil was never really decked up in wreaths, but for Lunar Festival, that town was, going all out. So it seemed more, culturally related to the night elves.
We could put a
Also,
party
I
in the
think
ashes. Just in the ashes of Teldrassil. Just have a little
Oh
party over
my
there.
god. Novel, no. That's mean.
You could do like war paint before you go into the Battle of Darkshore. You could do like war
no.
paint. It's great.
Oh no. Too soon. Okay, it's still too soon for this.
Did you not bring your marshmallows to the barbecue?
Oh my no.
No.
Don't say this, Novel. You're hurting us.
I also feel that Omen has some lore related to the Night Elves or Darkshire. I'm blanking on this, but
I've just done the. Do you want me to tell the story? Because I've
yeah,
just
tell
done
me
a
the story
video
of,
on
of,
it.
of Omen, who's a gigantic puppy.
Once
Oh yeah,
upon a
Elune's
time.
Blessing. That sounds Night Elf. Elune's Blessing, Elune's Lantern, Elune's Stone.
Once upon a time, 10,000 years ago, there was a beautiful war called the War of the Ancients. During the Lunar Festival, we celebrate the victory earned in the War of the Ancients. And during that war, many of the Wild Gods showed up to fight with them. One of them was Omen, but Omen died to the Legion and to the Fel, so he got nightmares. But he was still blessed by Elune, and they kind of made him immortal. So every year he comes back. But Omen is actually a reference to Nyan, which is related to the Chinese New Year's festival. Nyan was also a creature that came out of the water and terrorized the villagers until an old man showed up and he was like, hey, you got to light up firecrackers and put red on your wall. It's going to be great. He won't bother you anymore. So they did, and they were saved, and it was great. But Omen in WoW is just a demigod that got corrupted by the Legion. But the whole celebration is not just Night Elf related. It's a big part Night Elf because War of the Ancients is, of course, a big part Night Elf. But you also see Irvin and Furbolgs and Tauren amongst the Ancients because that's what they celebrate. And recently, they also added the addition of Cenarius and Goldrin and Aviana making a turn, but that was more in the Cataclysm rather than War of the Ancients.
Yeah, so I think they could do something with Night Elves as well as Tauren, because everyone was like, oh, what is the Tauren thinking after, War of Thorns? Were they there? Like, how are they, what's their balance with nature? So, I don't know. I think a quest could have been interesting.
Are you telling us that you want us to burn down Thunderbluff? Because we could.
No, I just thought, I don't know.
We're not like Sylvanas, okay? I'm kidding.
Yeah. It could be like, like, things are tense in Moonglade this year, or
Bane just betrayed her!
Really celebrate the Lunar Festival, and because they're holding on to their traditions in light of things being burned, or I don't know, just some dialogue.
I mean, Bane just betrayed her. What better reason to burn down Teldrassil than that? That's great.
Wait, you mean that you think she would burn down Thunderbluff?
Thunderbluff.
Yeah, so that's, I'll just burn down Thunderbluff.
Oh my god.
Then the Tauren and Night Elves can both celebrate in the ashes.
That would be the
War
third
paint.
city.
Yeah.
So?
Oh, maybe all the torches are for the things Sylvanas burns down.
Just toss Sylvanas in there, yeah? Like, bye, Banshee Queen.
God.
I'm down. Let's do it.
But yeah, so just to wrap this up, as I'm reviewing over questions, I just wanted to highlight some new guides that were on Wowhead for Season 2. Just to, reiterate some stuff if you're probably already are using them if you are using or, watching Wowhead. But all class guides were updated for Season 2. And they're continuing to get updates to the Mythic Plus and Raid sections as we learn more about the Mythic fights and hotfixes come out. We also have sections in the guides that recommend Titan Residuum. So if you're like, oh, what do I buy? We have sections specifically going over that. We have raid guides written by Fat Boss TV that are being referenced and linked on the Method World First stream. These are to all bosses, and they have sections explaining Heroic and Mythic, and they go along with their guides that they also produce on YouTube. We have new guides written by the Secret Finding Discord. They launched some secret guides a few weeks ago, and they followed that up with mount guides, so like the Time Lost Proto Drake, or, Aeonax, explaining how to farm them. And we also have the Glory of Dazar'alor Raider Achievement Guide if you want to get the mount, which I know is a little boring for the Horde, but it's the only version the Alliance can get, and I believe it was finally fixed to actually work for the Alliance. Sass would also like me to point out that if you visit discord.gg/wowhead, we have a really large giveaway going on thanks to one of Wowhead's sponsors involving a large quantity of items like peripherals. There's a few steps to enter, but there's like a ton of game time, headsets, keyboards, mice. So do check that out if you want to enter and possibly get some cool stuff.
We also have a winner for the giveaway.
Yay!
He is called
Is it
Kroll D. Is your name
Kroll?
Kroll?
No way!
That's not novel.
So Kroll D, you have 2 minutes to respond in the chat or whisper to Sass so that he can give you the prize. I'm here, he says. Well, there you go. Just talk to
Let's
Sass
go.
148, the mod in the chat, and he will hook you up. Congratulations again. And I saw somebody ask, what is Horgus? Horgus, am I saying it right? Horgus? Hogrus?
Hogrus?
Is it Hogrus? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's Hogrus, actually. Because it's a hog, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hog. US to sound Latin.
A Hogrus. And it's basically a flying pig. So, if you ever had any dreams of mounting a flying pig in World of Warcraft, this is it. This is it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
Like
congratulations
a dream come
again. A real dream come true. Do we have...
So running down
yeah.
some questions quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these are fast. Some of these might have a little bit of discussion. Ken the N says, wasn't the portal room supposed to be an 815 or was that 82? It's 815. It's on the PTR. We have some articles on that. Crispy Kitten asks us about 815's release. We covered it before. We speculate it will be right after, like the week after Dazar'alor LFR, so March 6th. But the raid won't be until April or so. Let's see. Daisy Duck X says, do you think they will make goblins like pandas where you choose a faction? I don't know if they would do that just for goblins, but I can see Blizzard maybe trying to break down the faction lines at some point and introduce new types of alignment. But I don't think they would be both factions because that would disrupt a lot of things with like racials and I don't know, possibly cause some implications or imbalance that could affect things down the line. But it would be cool if anyone could be either faction with how people seem disillusioned with both the Alliance and the Horde. Rada Kurth says, do you think with players generally being smart, do you believe we will somehow manage to maximize war mode bonus by switching constantly? I wouldn't put it past people, honestly.
Absolutely.
That's
they will.
smart.
Now that they figured out like how exactly it works, of course people are gonna play into it.
Yeah, especially if you get streamers or large sites involved. If someone like there's a banner on Wowhead that was like, Alliance War Mode Week, like do X, like Nobbel on the stream being like, okay, EU, like this side has to do it today, like viewer runs to, I don't know, log on to one side and turn War Mode on. Yeah, I think that could get a little hairy for Blizzard.
The problem with that is, though, like, me as an Alliance player, I never wanted to be Horde. I wanted to be Alliance all the time. So, like, would I really tell people, like, let's switch it over to Horde?
Well, if you switch it, then, you never have a week where no side has the quest like NA does now.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's balanced
NA
out,
was at 15, Alliance was at 15, and that didn't trigger the 20%.
I think the only problem would be to organize enough people to actually make an impact on it. As well as Blizzard maybe keeping an eye on it. Like, because Blizzard decides at the end of the day, they decide, like, do you get the quest or not?
Right.
So if they see, like, a big spike at the start of the weekend, there's a drop-off, they might just decide, like, it's not going to be worth it. It's just people do it for the item and then they just turn it off again.
Yeah. Mops ENTMP says, question for Nobbel, what's your favorite storyline in BFA so far?
Pride of Kaltiris. I think that the Jaina storyline that they've done, the whole conclusion of the road that she has walked, is some of the best storytelling that they've done, which is why I'm also really conflicted about what do I feel about the storyline of Battle for Azeroth in general. because there are some really bad moments in there.
Yeah.
But then there are peaks with Pride of Cultiras and Lost Honor and the Sourfang storyline. So yeah, that Pride of Cultiras.
Yeah, that reminds me. Last time on the show we
your
talked
art
about
piece.
ordering this print, and now it came in. So this is the Jaina print that was on the Blizzard shop. They only sold 150 of these for $55 each, and it's awesome. And apparently every month they're going to have a similar limited edition print.
Oh.
By the time I saw that on
edition.
Twitter, it was sold
gone.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought it, and then I made a post on Wowhead, and then it sold out 10 minutes later. So.
Yep. So it's all your fault, Perk.
Yeah. I even told my friends at the same time. I was like, hey, like, you know, some of them. Sorry, you're my friend, Nobbel. Sorry I didn't tell you.
I'm learning so much right now. It's okay. I'll cry
it's okay,
myself.
Nobbel. I wasn't told either. It's okay.
Wow.
And they thought they bought it originally, but then they got refunded, and that happened to multiple people I told.
Yeah.
Actually, it wasn't even available in EU. So obviously Perk was considering us, but you know, we couldn't get it. So it was NA only.
Just give me a heads up when the statue comes out, because that one is one I really want.
Yeah, I need the statue. I thought it would have been out with the raid. I don't know why though, it's not out.
Yeah, I'm surprised as well that it's been delayed.
Maybe, I mean, there's always a thing where people want to spend more in December, and then in January they're like, New Year's resolution, no money. So maybe they figured January's not a good time.
January is the worst time. People don't spend money in January.
Yeah.
Everyone is poor in January.
Yeah. Kroll D says, for Nobbel, which way would have more weight on lore? Keep Sylvanas as war chief or get rid of her and look for a new war chief ... again.
What would have more weight for the story as a whole?
Yeah, I guess like what
keep
would
her on.
Yeah.
Keep her on, and then just have the rest of the Horde step away from her. That would be an idea. But then again, that would also be very Geralt-esque, won't it? Like when it comes to Sylvanas, it was always difficult to deal with a character like Sylvanas. On the one hand, way back with Mr. Pandaria, a lot of people expected already Sylvanas to be in the Garrosh role, and they were surprised to see Garrosh take up such a switch. So now we finally have Sylvanas step up to the plate, and she is still a very popular character amongst the player base. There are still a lot of people that really like Sylvanas. So what do you do with a character like that? Do you just get rid of it, like you did with Garrosh? It was going to be a difficult sell to begin with, which I find it so surprising why they even bothered. But here we are. Sylvanas is war chief. She's doing what she's always been doing, except now it's out in the open. Except now the Horde just follows her along with it. It's hard to say. I wouldn't like it if we dispose her as a war chief like we did with Garrosh. I would not like it if she just stays on as a war chief for the next expansion, and just have Bane stand there like, oh, Sylvanas, you're so evil, but I'm afraid to do anything. Oh, if only there was Vol'jin to follow. Oh, wait, there is Vol'jin. Wow, let's follow him. Like, really? I would personally like it if Sylvanas would sacrifice herself. Not a Garrosh, but a Gromash. Sacrifice herself. Yes, she started the fire, but let her pee it out again as well, like Gromash did. Like Gromash drank the demon blood, and then he slew Manoroth, and he became a hero. Let Sylvanas be like, oh, I awoken Azeroth, I'm going to sacrifice myself. Or, oh, my sister needs me, let me help her as she falls into the void. Something in that direction. Or maybe even the manipulation. Like a big part of the motivation why Sylvanas is the way that she is today is because she's afraid to die. When she finished the mission to kill Arthas, she was like, I'm done, bye. And then she ended up in hell, and she started doing all these things. If that hell was never real, how pissed off is she going to be at those that put her there, right? And then we could push it in that direction. So there are definitely...
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, there are definitely paths that they could take it in a more surprising way, rather than Siege of Orgrimmar 2.0.
But is it inevitable to see her death? Because like you mentioned, sacrifice or being killed off. Like, is there a way for her to not die, but still
exile?
Exile?
Lich Queen. There are definitely ways in that as well. But see her as a war chief of the Horde is going to be difficult, considering all the little peons around her be like, yeah, but she is no good though, and she's evil, and we should do something against her. Like, how are you going to keep her on as war chief in that regard?
Yeah. Yeah. Plus you could have that other idea that we saw in the Burning of Teldrassil, that line referring to a master plan she had beyond the, success of the Horde. So it's sort of like, well, is she eventually going to try to kill off everyone that disagrees with her, or I don't know?
That's what I personally thought.
Dead army.
Like, if her goal was to bring peace to the world, and she believed that time was going to fracture any peace she was going to make with the Alliance, then that same rule goes for the Horde. But if she resurrects everybody into undeath under her rule,
Yeah.
GG. Which is also
Everyone's
something that the
happy.
old god would fear, because no more conflict, no strife, nothing to feed upon.
Right.
But time will tell. Yeah.
Amazy Blaze has another question about Death. Do you think with Death and Azeroth looking like the big bad guys, we could see an 8-4, kind of like Argus? Do you think Anduin could be removed because of his lack of experience and how he thinks everything will go perfectly?
Everything is awesome. I think Anduin is growing into his role. And at first I was really disappointed that they made him High King of the Alliance right away. That was a title that Varian was voted into, whereas Anduin just got it with Varian's death. But over time, we do see other leaders step away from him and confront him and be like, this is not what we're going to do. We are the Night Elves. We will take care of business, whether the Alliance helps us or not. We do see Anduin make mistakes. We do see Anduin question things like, history might tell that this is a victory, but was it really? So we see some cool roles, some cool story paths play out there. Could we dispose of Anduin? Anything's possible, but he is Christy Golden's favorite. I don't see him fall down a dark path, not anytime soon anyway.
I could also see if there is like a shakeup with factions that maybe Anduin is in charge of like the peaceful faction, and then there's a more, I don't know, warlike in between faction.
Anduin just become the hippie covenant over there.
Yeah, it's like Anduin and Sourfang and Bane are together, and then you have like
smoking a pipe. Yeah. But that's also a thing we need to consider, because it is World of Warcraft. It is a story about strife and drama. And if they would make something like Anduin and Bane on both sides, two very similar-minded creatures, then there would be no strife between the factions anymore. And I personally would be okay with that. I personally would rather focus on old gods and the Titans and whatever else is out in the world. But a lot of people really like the war in Warcraft. A lot of people. So I can understand why they go with that.
People commenting on the post. Sarek Angrius says, in the Emerald Nightmare, when they talk about 5 torches, we as a player are now probably one of them. Any idea who are the rest of the 4?
No idea.
So I had an idea that I mean, I don't really know, but when we had the lore Q&A, it ended by Terran talking about like when all the torches are, extinguished, and that to me reminded me of the Whisper. And we've also had a lot of torch imagery of, the iconic Sourfang shot where he's holding the torch as he's walking out at the end of Lost Soldier. So maybe those are related.
Isn't there a torch in the Sylvanas cinematic as she tells Nephanos to go away?
Yeah, I thought there was that as well.
Interesting. Putting Teldrassil to the torch.
And the lighting plays a role when Anduin goes down to talk to Sourfang in the prison as well, I thought. Or maybe I'm making that one up. But also the torches in Funeral Pyre, that's imagery as well of, his son on the funeral pyre. Yeah, but I don't know who all 4 would be. I did have another idea that just popped into my head. So for the weekend, I'm working on this article analyzing the prophecies of End Time and how the parallels what's kind of happening to those characters in BFA. Because, Tyrande is the Night Warrior. Jaina was shattered into a lot of pieces and was unstable, similar to, all of her mirror images and illusions in Thros the Blighted Lands. Sylvanas, cannot find peace and is now able to raise a dead. And then with Bane, we just got Bane consumed by grief that he can't protect the Horde. So maybe we're the player, and maybe those 4 characters are the 4 torches that fulfill the prophecy of End Time. And Azeroth was behind End Time as well.
Interesting. But then the whole definition of no, I was gonna say the whole definition of End Time be changed, because I believe that was like when the old gods broke out of the prisons and would rule the world once more. But we've taken care of some of the old gods by now, apparently.
Yeah, maybe those are just like important characters in N'Zoth's plan.
I mean,
that
it would
he's
make
fighting
sense
on.
considering he was behind the whole Deathwing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Maybe
Hour of
cool.
Twilight, and now we have all these whispers like, the hour is near, hour.
The Hour of Twilight, that was the description I was looking for. Yeah, the Hour of Twilight was the moment when they broke. This is going to be a cool article.
Yep. Stormy16 said, how is the Zandalari fleet destroyed when it was mobilized to defeat Nazmir? Wouldn't only the ships in the harbor be destroyed, or did everyone return from Nazmir in time to get blown up, considering the range of the Gnome's button? That's a great question because, we discussed all the plot holes. But, I mean, whether some were out in Nazmir, I think we still made a significant dent considering, the Navy was meant to be legendary and we blew up a lot of them. Talanji has a line, I think, when she's talking to Sylvanas about support from the Horde, and she's like, do you want to still partner with me, even though the Zandalari Navy is destroyed? So he says it's destroyed. That's how we know.
As well as, of course, the amount of ships that you see in the cinematic is not the amount of ships that are actually blown up. It's not just 3 ships that is placed bombs upon, but it would be very boring to give you a quest to go through 1 million ships to place bombs. So it's more an interpretation of.
Please nerf this quest, taking too long. I think that's about it as far as questions.
Okay.
I think awesome show.
Yeah.
How long have we been going on, man? I got a feeling.
A while. According
Let's go
to my
for 5 more.
According to my OBS, it says almost 3.5. So it's,
wow.
Yeah, Nobbel's like, I need to go back and work on Jaina now. I'm so energized.
I'm gonna get some sleep. Oh my god.
Oh, I just saw comments in the chat as well. Fascinating as this is, I'm going to have to watch the video for the rest. Thanks for the stream all. Yeah, because I think he's also going to bed. And I think most of us in EU...
No, if you got more questions, by all means, I'm here now.
Yeah, no, yeah, do we have any more questions? Nobbel's so nice. Like, I'll skip my sleep for you guys, I'll take care.
We have a class development question, but I don't know. Basically, someone is asking if we think that the Heart of Azeroth and Legion weapon detracts away from what could have been built in class development. And I don't know, like, I would just take the angle that I feel like the Heart of Azeroth is a missed opportunity for lore development and story development. Like, the Legion weapons had those artifact books, they had the appearances tied to doing content, they had their little quest lines with the class hall, and the Heart of Azeroth, I think, is shallow. It has class problems, but also, like, you don't care about it. It just feels like a, slot or grinding machine because there's no compelling badassness tied to it. There's no visual thing. You don't know much about Azerite. Yeah. There's no variety in learning about backstories like, Xalatath. It's just there.
And when it comes to Azerite as well, I think that they designed Azerite traits in combination with how they designed the specs. Mm-hmm. But I think what a big problem is that it's so very randomized and you don't have a lot of control about the abilities that are connected to your Azerite gear. Compared to the 3 major traits that you could get with your Azerite weapon. That was awesome. Like, if I put an X amount in, I'll get Wake of Ashes, I'll get a better this and a better that. And then the rest I could put into minor talents and just a raw damage upgrade. That felt a lot more significant than what they're doing right now with the Azerite traits, at least in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here's another one. Do you think the Kultirans are related to the Drust?
No. We know this because also keep an eye on Wowhead because we're gonna do a collab on this soon. Like the story of Kultiras. Mm-hmm. But the Drust come from the Vraiku that were like sailors, whereas the Kultirans, they come from the humans, and the humans also come from the Vraiku, only they are deformed because of the curse of flesh. And we know this from the Chronicles, as way back when we had Arator Dude unite all the tribal clans of the humans to stand with the High Elves against the Trolls. And then they expanded the Empire of Arator. Some went to Gilneas, some went even further into the ocean. And they eventually launched the Kultiras, where they fought with the Drust, who come with a more closer relation to the Vraiku. So, related, definitely. Just one misformed because of the curse of flesh.
Yeah, also the druid angle, the Drust magic is tied to the Kultiran druids, and their forms are related as well. That's what they're inspired by, kind of like how the Zandalari are inspired by the forms of the Loa, and that's why they're dinosaurs.
Correct.
I think that's about it.
All right. Well,
So,
in that case, it's time to wrap up the show. I want to start off with saying thank you so much, Nobbel, for joining us here. Second show
Of
together.
course.
The first show, I don't know if you guys remember, but we had Nobbel, but his webcam was broken, so we had a picture of him. But this time, we could also see his face, which is amazing.
Hi.
Hi. We can see him talking into his microphone and everything, you know, and I'm sure that makes you guys very happy. And yeah. This was all for today. Hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully you guys are all experts in WoW lore now. I know I'm learning a lot listening to Perk and Nobbel. I'm sure you guys also learned a lot. Oh, apparently they want you to say R.
R? Like
Like you're
rustica?
right. Yes, that's
Oh, the rrrr. I see.
that's it. But yeah, thank you so much. And thank you,
course.
people in the chat as well, for hanging out, asking questions, supporting. I saw quite a few subs. I also saw the 500 bits that was donated, so thank you for that too. Thank you to those of you guys who are supporting Wowhead on Wowhead's website, like with using the subscription, Wowhead Premium, and all other kinds of support. Oh yeah, and join the Discord. Makes Sass very happy.
Yeah.
And we all want to
It's
make
his
Sass
Sass's
happy,
birthday
right?
yesterday. This is his birthday wish, to join the Discord and check out the giveaway.
Exactly. You can't say no to somebody who just had their birthday. Oh, and I can hear myself now. Hello, Annie.
Echo.
Still echoing. All right, Perk. Do you want to say
Yeah.
bye?
Oh yeah, I
'Cause
just
you don't-
also
you
wanted
don't
to say,
echo.
you know, hopefully I sound nicer with this new microphone. I know we had a little bit of echo, but I think overall it sounded better than the past. Still probably working on the headset. I think maybe my headset was doing weird things because Brightpaw ate the cord that was meant to be connected to it. But yeah, thank you so much for all the support we've had in season 2. We've seen, you know, really great traffic on stuff. You know, people coming from the method race. You know, people checking out our class guides or raid guides, or saying, hey, you know, I took a break from WoW for, you know, a few expansions, and like these raid guides are so good. You never used to have them, but I love all the gifts and the details. So yeah, thanks to anyone that's been supporting the site. It's been a really busy time for the staff, especially when you have the PTR builds in the middle of things like the World First race, and we try to have the coverage be really good for everything. And then, you know, I remember Normal Week was crazy how it was the PTR, the new raid, and then I wanted to do a good job doing the analysis on the cinematics. So it's been pretty intense, but everyone's been really supportive. So that's awesome. So Nobbel, when we say goodbye, we try to do this high five where we count to 3 and we all sort of do a high five. We should coordinate this so we actually are like moving to
Testing.
the center of the screen.
Oh, I'm still echoing.
Yeah, is this tradition over here?
Hello? Okay, it's gone.
Hello.
All right. So, Nobbel, your right side.
Uh-huh.
We are on
Yeah,
your right
my
side.
right side?
Yes.
This one here?
Yes.
Yeah, uh-huh.
So you'll need one hand at the top and one hand at the bottom. So you can high five both of us.
Right, okay, yeah, uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm
the
ready.
top one has to go a little bit higher.
Uh-huh.
Perfect. And
Yeah.
Perk, that's the wrong side for you. You need to switch
Oh,
side.
so yeah, we guess it's flipped. Okay.
Mhm. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, do the countdown.
All right. On the count of 3.
Mhm.
1, 2, 3.
Huh. Uh-huh.
We did it.
Yay!
Success. Yay.
Yay! Woo.
Take us a lot of coordination. And they're just
I think you need a new tradition, though, I'm just saying.
What? That's amazing. But yeah, Nobbel, if you want to say any last words or anything to all the amazing supporters in the chat. I've seen
Thank
some...
you very much for hanging out, everybody.
Mhm.
It was really, really cool. Thank you very much for your questions and all that. And you guys rocking it with the articles, like really all the PTR, the information, the collabs. It's insane. So the hard work is definitely paying off. So thank you very much for having me here tonight and for letting me ramble on about all kinds of things.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It was. Thank you for joining. And I look forward to your future collaborations, all those videos that you guys do together. It's awesome to see them.
Yep.
Well, in that case, this is our cue to say goodbye. Bye-bye, chat. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Check out Nobbel on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. Sometimes do you stream recently? Because I haven't...
Pornhub.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How often do you stream nowadays?
At least once a week. When I have the time, more. I really enjoy streaming. Just, YouTube videos take time.
Of course,
but at least once a week.
All right, well, there you go. You can check him out on Twitter, Nobbel87, and then his socials should be there available to you guys.
Yes, also linked in the Wowhead article.
Also linked in the Wowhead article. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.